What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another amazing Naruto story. What if Naruto joined Suna's underground racing scene with Temari? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. The hum of jet engines roared outside as planes took off into the cloudless blue sky above Suna's sprawling airport. Inside, the air was thick with the chatter of travelers, the occasional announcement blaring over the intercom. Naruto stepped out of the terminal, a duffel bag slung over one shoulder and a carry-on suitcase rolling behind him. The midday sun filtered through the glass walls, and he squinted against the glare as he pulled out his phone. Naruto. I'm here at the airport. What now? He leaned against a pillar, waiting for the response. A few seconds later, his phone buzzed. Temari. Book a ride to Biteville. It's a few blocks from the airport. I'm waiting for you there. Naruto frowned, typing quickly. Naruto. You couldn't even send a ride? Some host you are. Temari. Quit bitching, broke ass. Just hurry up. Naruto sighed loudly, earning a glance from a passing family. And so it begins, he muttered, pulling up a ride app on his phone. The car arrived 10 minutes later, a dusty, black sedan that looked like it had seen better decades. Naruto climbed in, settling into the backseat. Where to? The driver asked, barely glancing at him. Biteville, Naruto replied, buckling in. The car rolled out of the airport and onto the streets of Suna. Naruto pressed his face to the window, taking in the cityscape. The streets were a maze of life and chaos. Narrow roads crisscrossed through towering beige and tan buildings, many with crumbling balconies or brightly painted signs advertising shops. Cars honked incessantly, weaving through traffic with a level of recklessness that made Naruto's stomach churn. Vendors lined the sidewalks, shouting out deals on everything from fresh fruit to knockoff sneakers. Laundry hung from balconies, fluttering in the dry breeze, and children darted between parked cars, laughing as they played some game Naruto couldn't make sense of. The city had an ancient charm about it, but it was loud, chaotic, and hot as hell. Welcome to the sandpit, Naruto muttered under his breath. The car jerked to a halt in front of Biteville, a small but lively diner with red and white signage. Naruto climbed out, slapping a few bills into the driver's hand. He tugged his bag along as he stepped into the restaurant. The air inside was blessedly cooler, the scent of grilled meat and fried food heavy in the air. He scanned the room, his eyes landing on Temari at a corner table. She was lounging back, one leg crossed over the other, clad in a leather jacket, a purple tube top, black shorts, fishnets, and boots. Her sharp eyes locked on him, and she smirked, gesturing him over. Naruto walked over, dropping his duffel bag next to the chair as he sat down. Welcome to Suna, Temari said dryly, leaning back in her seat. Home of sand, sunshine, and wonder. Naruto snorted. Oh, it exceeded my expectations, alright. It's an even bigger shithole than I imagined. Temari's smirk didn't waver. Good. Get used to it, because for the next few weeks, you're going to be tearing through every highway and side street in this dump at speeds that'll make you shit yourself. Naruto chuckled. You're wasting no time, huh? Straight to business. She shrugged. You're not here for a vacation. How are you set for cars? Naruto grinned. Had two shipped over. A Vet and a DB11. Top notch, tuned by the best shop back in Konoha. Temari raised an eyebrow, her lips twitching into a grin. The same shop that built the car you used to lose the tournament finals? Naruto smirked back. The same shop that built the Aston I used to relieve you of your precious Corvette in Kumo. Temari leaned back further, crossing her arms as she stared at him. Touché, she said, remembering that humiliating night. Naruto had come out of nowhere and taken her car from right under her nose. And now here he was, bringing both cars from that fateful night to her turf. A power move if she thought more of him. Do you have a place to stay, or are you hoping I'll let you crash at mine? Temari asked. Naruto rolled his eyes. Relax, I rented a spot. You think I'd be dumb enough to bank on your hospitality? Smart, Temari said with a nod. You're learning. She checked her watch. Hope you're not jet-lagged, though. We've got some talking to do tonight. I'm good, Naruto said. Just tell me when and where. I'll text you the address, Temari said, standing up and slinging her bag over her shoulder. She turned as she walked away, throwing him a smirk. Oh, and wear something nice. Naruto shrugged, leaning back in his chair. Sure thing. As the door swung shut behind her, a waiter appeared at the table, holding a bill. Naruto frowned. "What's this?" The lady said to put her order on her tab, the waiter explained. Naruto's jaw dropped. "She what?" The waiter shrugged, leaving the bill on the table. Naruto stared at it, groaning loudly. "God damn it, Temari," he muttered, pulling out his wallet. His time in Suna was already shaping up to be a headache. Naruto shoved the apartment door open, rolling his suitcase inside as he kicked it shut behind him. The apartment complex sat near the heart of Suna's business district, far from the chaotic streets he had seen earlier. The space wasn't half bad, definitely an upgrade from the dingy motels he was used to during his trips. The living room was bright and airy, with large windows that overlooked the river slicing through Suna. Beyond the water was the city's skyline, dotted with sleek high-rises and a striking white bridge connecting the two halves of the city that gleamed under the afternoon sun. He dropped his bag by the couch and wandered to the window, taking it all in. "Huh," he muttered to himself. "Maybe this place isn't a total dump." The apartment itself was small but modern. Minimalist furniture, a tiny kitchenette, and, his favorite feature, a queen-sized bed in the corner of the room that looked sinfully comfortable. Naruto wasted no time. He flopped onto the bed with a content sigh, pulling out his phone. The screen lit up with a flood of notifications. His eyes scanned the messages as he swiped through. "Kushina. You in Suna yet? Have you unpacked? Make sure you eat." Naruto sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. He'd told Kushina he was in Suna to discuss a very serious and legitimate contract with a pro racing team. Total bullshit, but he needed her off his back, and technically he wasn't lying, there was racing involved. Pro team or not, he'd figure it out later. He kept scrolling. Ino had posted her usual slew of stories and vlogs. He swiped past them, wondering for a moment if she'd physically combust if she stopped recording herself for 2 seconds. Does she even know how to function without recording it? Naruto muttered, swiping her notifications away with exaggerated flair. Sakura had sent him something too. Something about paying her back for something he definitely didn't remember agreeing to. Yeah, no, that's getting ignored. And then there was the one message that actually made him smile. Hinata. How's Suna so far? Hinata, his girlfriend. He still couldn't believe it sometimes. She was the only one who knew the real reason he was in Suna, for reasons that definitely weren't related to her offering to fund his stay. Okay, maybe she did end up funding it, but that was beside the point. She said she just wanted the best for him, and that included him crushing the competition. He hadn't told her he'd be street racing, per se, but he figured she didn't need that specific detail. He texted her back. "It's been nice so far. Apartment's great. View's killer. You'd like it here." He hit send and tossed the phone on the bed, stretching out. The mattress wasn't bad, and the cool air was already making him feel drowsy. Not even a minute later, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. "Hey," he answered, a smile creeping onto his face as he heard her soft voice on the other end. "Hi," Hinata said warmly. "I didn't think you'd pick up. How are you settling in?" "Not bad," Naruto replied, leaning back against the headboard. "The place is decent. Riverview, fancy bridge, all that. Way better than I expected, honestly." Hinata chuckled softly. "I'm glad. Have you met anyone yet?" "Not really," Naruto admitted. "Just Temari earlier. I'm supposed to meet more people soon. You know how it is. Networking, all that boring stuff." "Of course," she said, a smile in her voice. "I know you'll do great, Naruto." "Thanks," he said, scratching the back of his head even though she couldn't see it. They chatted for a few more minutes, small talk, mostly, but it was enough to lift his mood. As the call wound down, Hinata's voice softened. "Take care of yourself, okay? I love you." Naruto grinned. "Love you too, princess." The call ended, and he stared at his phone for a moment before setting it down. He closed his eyes, letting out a deep breath. He could get used to this. The sun had dipped below the horizon by the time Naruto woke up to the faint glow of his phone screen. He groaned, reaching for it. A message from Temari awaited him. "Temari. Coordinates. Be there at 9. Wear something nice." He opened the link, and it led to a nightclub not far from his apartment. Naruto stared at the screen for a moment, his face twisting into a grimace. "A fucking nightclub?" he muttered, rubbing his temple. He wasn't in the mood for loud music, overpriced drinks, and strangers grinding on each other in sweaty proximity. But he knew this wasn't just about partying. If Temari had dragged him here, it had to be important. Grumbling to himself, Naruto rolled out of bed and shuffled to his suitcase. Fine, but if she makes me pay for anything again, I'm slashing her tires. He pulled out a clean button-up shirt and a decent pair of jeans, figuring it was the closest thing to nice Temari was going to get. As he buttoned up, he caught his reflection in the mirror. You've got this, he told himself, adjusting his collar. Then, after a beat, he added, and you better not fuck it up. Grabbing his phone and keys, he headed for the door. The night in Suna was just beginning. Naruto stood at the entrance of the club, blinking as his senses were assaulted. The pounding bass of electronic music thumped in his chest, lights strobed in every color imaginable, and the distinct smell of alcohol and sweat hung thick in the air. Great, he muttered, stepping further inside. My kind of party. Pulling out his phone, he scrolled to his messages with Temari. Naruto. I'm here. Where the hell are you? Her reply came almost instantly. Temari. Near the VIP section. Look for the booth with a bunch of idiots. Naruto frowned, scanning the packed club. That could be anywhere. Cursing under this breath, he started moving. The crowd was dense, bodies swaying to the music. He made his way deeper into the chaos, checking his phone again. Naruto. VIP section is where? Temari. Oh my god, are you blind? It's on the second floor, genius. Naruto grumbled, making his way to the stairs. The crowd wasn't making it easy, and he had to squeeze past a group of girls taking selfies. One of them shot him a dirty look as he accidentally bumped her drink. Sorry, Naruto said, even though she was clearly standing in the middle of the damn staircase. Finally, he reached the second floor. He pulled his phone out again. Naruto. I'm up here. Now what? Temari. Turn left. No, your other left. God, how are you this dumb? Naruto groaned. He turned right, then left again, before spotting a booth with a familiar blonde sitting cross-legged, glaring at her phone. Temari, he called, waving as he approached. She looked up, her glare softening into a smirk. About time. What took you so long? Did you get lost or were you just stopping to flirt with someone? Flirting? In this jungle? No thanks, Naruto replied, stuffing his phone into his pocket. You could have just met me at the entrance, you know. And missed the chance to watch you flounder? Never. She stood, gesturing for him to follow. Come on, we've got someone to talk to. Naruto trailed after her as she led him toward the VIP section. As they neared a semi-private booth cordoned off by velvet ropes, a voice called out. Yo, Temari, get your fine ass over here. Naruto blinked, looking toward the source of the voice. A red-haired man lounged in the booth, one arm casually draped over the backrest. A champagne bottle sat in front of him, along with an ashtray. Temari rolled her eyes but smirked. That's Sasori. Don't let his charming personality fool you. Charming isn't the word I'd use, Naruto muttered. Temari gestured for him to follow her into the booth. Sasori grinned as they approached, his attention briefly flicking to Naruto before settling back on Temari. So, this the guy you mentioned? Sasori asked, motioning to Naruto with his bottle. Yep, Temari replied, smirking. Sasori, meet Naruto. No shit, Sasori said, laughing. You're the guy who snatched Temari's car back in Kumo? That's wild. Naruto couldn't help but grin. I mean, she made it pretty easy. Temari rolled her eyes but didn't argue. He's capable, trust me. Sasori extended a hand. Sasori, I oversee the qualification runs for the league. Naruto shook his hand firmly. Naruto, you've got some reputation to live up to, Sasori said, leaning back and taking a swig from the champagne bottle. Temari's been talking you up. She has, huh? Naruto shot her a glance. Don't get, Temari said, crossing her arms. I also told him you're a pain in the ass. A waitress arrived, setting drinks down for everyone in the booth. Naruto instinctively reached out, but nothing came his way. He frowned. Where's mine? I didn't get you one, Sasori said, smirking. Didn't want you drunk for what's coming next. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What's coming next? Sasori patted him on the shoulder. Your qualification race. Tonight. Naruto froze. Wait, what? You heard me, Sasori said. We're putting you behind the wheel tonight. I want to see what you got. Are you serious? Like right now? Why not? You're sober, aren't you? Sasori grinned. And hey, after the race, drinks are on me. All you can handle. Temari smirked. Hope you brought a decent car. If not, I can lend you mine. Naruto shook his head, regaining his composure. I've got it covered. Don't worry about me. Sasori chuckled, clearly amused. Alright then, hotshot. Let's see what you've got. Sasori leaned back in his seat, swiveling his attention to the far end of the VIP booth. His sharp gaze landed on a trio of glamorously dressed women, each seated with an air of effortless elegance. He addressed the girl in the middle, her dark wavy hair cascading over her shoulders with a casual grin. Sweetheart, he drawled, do me a solid tonight. Keep the pigs off our backs, yeah? It's amateur hour. He gestured at Naruto with his bottle, his tone teasing. I want to see if the rookies have any bite. The girl in the middle lowered her oversized sunglasses, revealing striking red eyes that zeroed in on Naruto like lasers. Her gaze was sharp, predatory, and Naruto couldn't help but shift uncomfortably under the scrutiny. She scanned him from head to toe, her lips curling into a faint smirk before she sighed, pushing her glasses back up. Fine, she said coolly, pulling out her phone. Her manicured nails tapped rapidly on the screen. To her right, the girl in the white fur coat with a fluffy blue and black cat on her lap smiled at Naruto, her bright eyes filled with curiosity. Her appraisal was far less intimidating, but no less noticeable. The guy seated next to her scowled, clearly annoyed that his attempts to keep her attention were failing miserably. Temari broke the tension with a sly chuckle, turning to the man beside the girl with the cat. Kankuro, she said, her tone dripping with mockery, still being a pain in the ass to everyone here? Kankuro shot her an unimpressed look, flipping her off without hesitation. Mind your business, Temari. Temari laughed, clearly enjoying herself. Sasori gestured toward her with his bottle. You better get moving, Temari. Get your boy ready. On it, Temari said, jerking her head toward Naruto. Come on, rookie. Time to see if you're worth all the trouble. Naruto followed her out of the booth, the pounding music fading slightly as they descended a set of stairs. So, where are we going? He asked, hands stuffed in his pockets. Parking garage, Temari replied, not looking back. Time to get ready for the race. Naruto nodded, feeling a small knot of nervousness twist in his stomach. Moments later, Naruto was behind the wheel of his pristine white Aston Martin DB11, navigating through the dimly lit underground parking garage. His car hummed smoothly, the polished exterior gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Ahead, a small, rowdy crowd gathered around 3 other vehicles. Naruto parked a short distance away, taking in his competition. He spotted a sleek Porsche Cayman, its silver paint reflecting the overhead lights like a mirror. Next to it sat a menacing black Dodge Charger with wide tires and a growling exhaust. Finally, there was a Lexus 350 in a deep blue finish, its aggressive body kit making it look more like a cover car than a luxury sedan. Naruto let out a low whistle. Well, shit, these guys aren't playing around. Temari walked up to his car, leaning casually against the driver's side window. One shot, Naruto, she said flatly. Mess this up, and you're out. No second chances. Naruto raised an eyebrow, giving her a sarcastic grin. Wow, thanks for the pep talk. I feel so inspired. She smirked. Fortunately for you, the first 2 cars to cross the finish line advance. So, technically, you don't have to come in first. But don't slack off. You've got eyes on you tonight. Good to know, Naruto muttered, gripping the wheel tighter. Temari continued. Race coordinates will be sent to your GPS in a second. But this isn't like the track races you're used to. All you'll get is the finish line. Naruto nodded, completing her thought. And I've got to figure out how to get there myself. Exactly. She straightened up, her smirk softening slightly. I'll be watching. Don't screw this up. She tapped the roof of his car twice before walking off, disappearing into the crowd. Naruto exhaled slowly, turning his focus back to the competition. He eased his car into position, slotting himself between the Porsche and the Lexus. The roar of engines echoed through the garage, the tension palpable as the drivers revved their vehicles in anticipation. A man in a dark hoodie stepped in front of the 4 cars, his face shadowed under the fluorescent lights. He raised both hands, signaling the drivers to prepare. Naruto gripped the wheel, his knuckles whitening. The hum of his Ashton's engine felt like a heartbeat, steady but eager. All right, he muttered to himself, his lips curling into a determined grin. Let's do this. The man dropped his hands, and the race began. The bass thumped through the ground as the nightclub's glow faded behind them. The underground parking garage reverberated with the roar of engines. Naruto gripped the leather steering wheel of his white Aston Martin DB11, his pulse matching the purr of the twin-turbo V12 under the hood. Beside him, the silver Porsche Cayman revved sharply, its driver smirking with confidence. The green Dodge Charger Hellcat let out a guttural growl, and the sleek blue Lexus IS-350 prowled forward like a predator ready to strike. His GPS lit up as new coordinates were sent to all four drivers. The message was clear. The first to the public library wins. Naruto's mind raced faster than his car ever could. The libraries across town, light traffic, but Suna's maze-like streets and expressways? This won't just be about speed, it's about wits. He took a deep breath. I can't afford to lose this one. As if synced by some invisible signal, all four cars roared out of the garage, tires screeching against the pavement. The race was on. Naruto's DB11 surged ahead. The wide streets outside the garage quickly funneled into the winding alleys of Suna's inner city. The headlights of the Porsche Cayman gleamed in his side mirrors, while the Hellcat's supercharger whine echoed ominously behind. Naruto swerved hard right, narrowly avoiding a fruit stand as pedestrians yelled in surprise. He caught sight of the Lexus in his rearview mirror. Its driver was relentless, the car cutting through the chaos with surgical precision. Naruto's knuckles widened on the steering wheel. Stay calm, don't overthink it. A hairpin turn loomed ahead, and Naruto slammed the brakes, flicking the car into a controlled drift. The DB11 slid perfectly through the corner, but the Hellcat didn't fare as well. The Charger's wide frame scraped against a parked SUV, sending sparks flying. The driver cursed but kept pushing forward. Too wide, Naruto muttered, glancing at the chaos in his rearview mirror. He smirked, but the satisfaction was short-lived. The Cayman blasted past him on the next straight, the smaller car's agility proving superior in the tight alleys. Naruto grit his teeth, flooring the accelerator to keep up. The alleys finally spat them out onto a wide expressway, the sprawling skyline of Suna glittering against the night sky. Naruto's car roared as it hit full throttle, the V12 engine screaming. The Porsche and Lexus flanked him on either side, while the Hellcat roared back into view, its massive power turning the Charger into a speeding missile. The Porsche darted toward an exit ramp, attempting to take a shortcut through another series of inner streets. Naruto hesitated for a split second but stayed on the expressway. He's gambling. If that shortcut's blocked, he's done. The Lexus edged closer, its driver showing no signs of backing off. Naruto glanced over, catching a glimpse of their steely determination. The Lexus swerved into his lane, forcing him to veer left just in time to avoid a slower-moving taxi. You're not taking me down that easy, Naruto muttered. The two cars danced dangerously close, swapping positions as they tore through the open highway. Naruto's heartbeat thundered in his ears, his focus razor-sharp. The library's dome appeared in the distance, its silhouette rising against the glow of the city. Naruto checked his rearview mirror. The Cayman was nowhere in sight, its shortcut must have failed. The Hellcat was a distant blur, struggling to keep up with the agility of the other cars. But the Lexus? It was right on him. Naruto pushed the DB11 harder, the engine responding with a ferocious growl. His eyes darted between the road ahead and the Lexus creeping up beside him. Every instinct screamed at him to block, to defend, to win. The Lexus swerved left, then right, testing him. Naruto countered, keeping his car perfectly positioned. A narrow side street loomed ahead, leading directly to the library grounds. This is it. Do or die. Naruto shifted down, the DB11's engine snarling as he braked just enough to make the turn. The Lexus stayed with him, its headlights burning into his side. The two cars roared into the side street, side by side, tearing through the heart of Suna as the library loomed larger and larger. The finish line was close, but the Lexus wasn't making it easy. Naruto's grip tightened, his jaw clenched, his foot pressed the accelerator to the floor. The narrow street stretched ahead like a dark tunnel, the jagged shadows of Suna's ancient architecture pressing in on either side. Naruto's car screamed through the tight corridor, its V12 engine echoing like a lion's roar. Behind him, the blue Lexus IS-350 stayed glued to his rear bumper, its headlights flashing like a predator's eyes. Naruto's hands tightened on the wheel. His muscles burned from the strain of precision driving, but his mind was laser-focused. One mistake, and I'm done. The street narrowed even more, forcing Naruto to hug the curb to avoid scraping the elegant bodywork of his DB11. The Lexus wasn't relenting. Its driver was pushing harder than ever, the car sliding into Naruto's lane at every opportunity. A blind corner loomed. Naruto yanked the wheel left, braking just enough to send the car into a perfectly controlled drift. The rear end swung out, skimming past a parked delivery truck by inches. The Lexus followed, its rear tires screeching against the asphalt. Naruto's pulse raced. They're good. Too good. As the narrow street spat them out onto a wider avenue, Naruto floored the accelerator, the DB11 surging forward. His tires gripped the road as he powered into the open stretch, the city lights reflecting off his car's pristine white finish. He glanced at his side mirror, expecting to see the Lexus, but it wasn't there. Instead, from the opposite direction, the silver Porsche Cayman came hurtling into view, its driver slamming the wheel to initiate a massive drift. The Porsche's taillights flared red as it slid into the street ahead of Naruto, its nose perfectly aligned with the road. Naruto's jaw dropped. How did they get here? But the Porsche's victory was short-lived. The driver hesitated for a fraction of a second, struggling to straighten the car out of the drift. Naruto seized the moment. He surged past, the DB11's engine howling as it overtook the Porsche in an instant. The Lexus wasn't far behind, its driver using Naruto's lead as an opening to pass the Cayman as well. Naruto caught a glimpse of the Porsche falling back, its driver pounding the wheel in frustration. The library's domed roof came into view, illuminated against the dark city skyline. Naruto shifted gears, the Aston Martin's power surging through him like adrenaline. He was in the lead, but the Lexus was still a threat. Its headlights gleamed in his rearview mirror, closer than ever. Traffic thickened slightly as they tore through the bustling avenue. A van veered into Naruto's lane, and he reacted instantly, swerving right with inches to spare. The Lexus followed, its driver mirroring Naruto's every move. A beat-up sedan rolled into an intersection ahead. Naruto gritted his teeth and swerved left, narrowly avoiding the car's rear bumper. The Lexus stayed on his tail, slipping past the sedan with surgical precision. The final stretch was a gauntlet of chaos. Cars, motorcycles, and even a broken-down pickup truck cluttered the road. Naruto's reflexes were on overdrive, his Aston darting through the obstacles like a predator on the hunt. The Lexus wasn't giving up. Its driver tried to edge closer, using the slipstream to gain precious speed. Naruto could feel the pressure mounting, the weight of the race crushing down on him. Not today, asshole. This is mine. With a final push, the Aston Martin surged ahead. Its superior power and engineering began to shine as the library loomed closer. The distance between Naruto and the Lexus grew, inch by inch, until it was undeniable. Naruto's heart pounded as he approached the library's grand steps, the car roaring past the final stretch of traffic. He slammed the brakes, the DB11 coming to a screeching halt just short of the plaza. The Lexus crossed the finish line seconds later, its driver revving in frustration before stopping. The Porsche Cayman was next, sliding into the plaza with a defeated but determined roar. The green Dodge Charger Hellcat thundered in last, its massive engine announcing its arrival like a war drum. Naruto sat in the DB11, breathing heavily, his hands trembling on the wheel. He stared at the library's towering facade, its ancient walls illuminated by the glow of streetlights. He had won. The other drivers said nothing. One by one, they peeled out of the plaza, their cars disappearing into the night. Naruto followed suit, his heart still racing. The journey back to the nightclub was quiet, the adrenaline slowly fading. As Naruto pulled back into the underground parking garage, the city's chaos felt distant, the roar of engines replaced by the muffled bass of the club's music. He stepped out of the DB11, his body still buzzing with the thrill of victory. Off to a good start, he thought. Now let's see what's next in store. Naruto swung open the car door of his Aston Martin DB11, stepping out into the nightclub's parking garage to the sound of muffled cheers from the lingering crowd. His palms still tingled from gripping the wheel, but the adrenaline pumping through his veins had him grinning like a lunatic. Well, look who decided to be competent tonight, Temari teased, striding toward him with her signature smirk. She gave him a firm pat on the shoulder. Good run, Naruto. You didn't fuck it up. I'm impressed. Naruto scoffed, brushing off her praise like dust from his shirt. TCH, please. That was nothing. Those guys couldn't keep up if I gave them a head start. Behind them, the roar of engines announced the arrival of the other 3 racers. Their cars pulled into the garage one by one, greeted by enthusiastic applause and whistles from the gathered crowd. Temari glanced back at them, rolling her eyes. Yeah, maybe it was a mismatch. Naruto chuckled, leaning casually against his car. Jealous much? Don't push it, Temari shot back, smirking. Anyway, we've got bigger things to handle. Sasori's waiting for us. Let's head inside so he can finalize our spot in the league. Naruto straightened up, stretching his arms over his head. Sure, but what's the deal with this league anyway? You've been talking it up like it's some secret society or something. Temari waved a hand dismissively. Ask Sasori. He's better at explaining this shit than I am. Let's go. The pounding bass of the nightclub music hit them as soon as they stepped inside, the dim lights and swirling strobes painting the scene in neon hues. Naruto trailed behind Temari, scanning the crowd as they made their way back to the VIP booth. When they reached the booth, Sasori was lounging in the corner, a cigarette lazily balanced between his fingers. He spotted them and grinned, raising a glass in mock salute. Well, Sasori drawled, setting the glass down. The rookie exceeded expectations. Not bad, kid. Naruto grinned, sliding into the booth next to Temari. Told you I'm the real deal. Sasori turned to Temari, a hint of amusement in his voice. You weren't lying about him. I'll admit, I had my doubts. Temari shrugged, leaning back in her seat. He's full of surprises. Occasionally useful, even. Naruto shot her a snide look before he turned back to Sasori, cutting to the chase. So, does this mean I'm in the league? Sasori nodded, taking a slow drag from his cigarette before exhaling a thin stream of smoke. You're in. You and Temari are officially a team now. Naruto leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. Alright, so what's next? When do we race again? And what's this league even for? Sasori chuckled, setting his cigarette in the ashtray. Eager, aren't you? The next race isn't set yet. But the league isn't the endgame, it's just the beginning. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? The league is a qualifier, Sasori explained, his tone casual but laced with importance. Teams from all over are fighting for one spot, one chance to represent their state in the Grand Run. The Grand Run? Naruto repeated, intrigued. It's a massive race, Sasori continued, gesturing with his glass. Across all 6 states, only one team from each state gets in. It's high stakes, high reward. Fame, money, respect, whatever you're chasing, it's there. Naruto leaned back, absorbing the information. So, we're fighting to represent Suna? Exactly, Sasori said, giving him a sharp grin. Win here, and you're in the big leagues. Temari stood, adjusting her leather jacket. Alright, we'll keep in touch, Sasori. Thanks for the rundown. Sasori raised his glass again. Don't forget, drinks are on me tonight, courtesy of our race winner. Temari turned to Naruto. So, what's the plan? You sticking around or heading out? Naruto rubbed the back of his neck, pretending to deliberate. I think I'll grab a few drinks. You know, celebrate my first win and all that. Temari sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. Of course you will. Just so you know, I'm not driving your ass home. Naruto frowned, feigning betrayal. Come on, Temari. Do me a solid. I just worked my ass off for our team. She rolled her eyes, but the faint smile tugging at her lips betrayed her amusement. One win and you're already milking it this much. Naruto grinned, already flagging down a server. Don't worry, I'll be fine. And don't wait up. Temari shook her head, walking away with a muttered, idiot. Naruto leaned back in his seat, the server arriving with a bottle of champagne. The night wasn't over yet, and as far as he was concerned, it was off to a damn good start. The bass-heavy music thumped through the bar downstairs, shaking the bottles on the shelves. Naruto nursed his drink, his elbows on the counter, while Temari sat next to him, her chin propped in her palm. So, when are we racing again? Naruto asked for what felt like the 100th time. Temari let out a long, exasperated groan, dragging her hands down her face. For fuck's sake, Naruto, you've asked me, like, 50 times. I don't know. It's to be decided. Chill. Naruto leaned back, unbothered by her irritation. Hey, I'm just excited, alright? I like to stay in the loop. You like to be a pain in my ass, Temari shot back. Naruto ignored her jab, sitting up straighter as a thought struck him. You know, it was weird that there weren't any cops at the race tonight. I was totally expecting law enforcement to bust in like a bad action movie. Temari glanced at him, then casually gestured toward a corner of the club. There weren't any cops because of her. Naruto followed her gaze and spotted a familiar figure walking toward the exit. The girl with the long black hair and sunglasses from the VIP booth earlier. She was accompanied by the blonde in the fur coat, who still carried that absurdly fluffy blue and black cat. The duo walked with an air of command, their every step poised and deliberate. The girl in sunglasses glanced briefly in his direction, her face partially obscured but no less striking. Even from across the room, Naruto could feel the weight of her presence. Temari snapped her fingers in front of his face, drawing his attention back. Focus, dumbass. Those two? That's Royal Flush, aka, the most obnoxious gathering of human beings at any point in this city. Possibly the entire planet. Naruto tilted his head, watching as the pair glided through the crowd like they owned the place. Anyone who wears sunglasses inside a dark club has gotta be a sociopath of some kind. I believe you. Temari smirked. That's Kimiko Yuhi for you. Naruto turned his gaze back to Kimiko, studying her as she paused to speak to a nearby bouncer, her hand on her hip. Her long black hair cascaded down her back, her outfit a perfect mix of designer crop top and miniskirt that screamed money. Her heels, glinting under the club lights, probably cost more than his car's insurance. She acts like there's a camera on her all the time, Naruto mused. It's like she only knows how to pose. Temari chuckled dryly. That's the Yuhi special. Daddy's the chief of police, mommy's the heir to Suna's old royal family, and all the sacks of cash that come with it. Kimiko hit the jackpot and knows it. She uses every bit of her privilege to her advantage. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Wait, so she called off the cops for my race? Yup, Temari said, finishing her drink. That's the benefit of having your dad in charge of this corrupt hellhole's finest. She snaps her fingers and the pigs scatter. Add to that a limitless trust fund, and she's basically untouchable. Naruto's lips curled into a smirk. She's like Ino and Hinata blended together and spiced up with a vial of snake venom. Temari pointed at him, laughing. I don't fully get that, but yes. Absolutely yes. Naruto's gaze drifted to Kimiko's companion. And the blonde with the cat? What's her deal? Temari leaned back, crossing her arms. That's Yugito Ni, Kimiko's right-hand harpy. Her dad owns a record label. Big one. Lots of famous names under his belt. Her family's from Kumo, but she's here for the league. Naturally, she gravitated toward Kimiko because rich assholes stick together. That's all you need to know about her. Naruto nodded slowly, watching as the two girls sauntered through the club. Their mere presence seemed to part the crowd like the Red Sea, helped by the bouncers clearing the way for them. They're like a street racing sorority, Naruto muttered. Temari laughed bitterly. That's one way to put it. They're hell-bent on dominating the underground racing scene. Like it's the last part of society their claws haven't sunk into. Of course, we're stuck going up against them for the chance to represent Suna. Naruto smirked, taking a swig of his drink. Honestly, I'm looking forward to it. I like the challenge. Temari chuckled, shaking her head. You've got guts, I'll give you that. Maybe you'll even survive long enough to beat them. Naruto grinned. You sound like you're rooting for me. Well, it's the cruel hand I've been dealt. Temari shot back, but her smirk betrayed her amusement. She checked her watch, then stood. Alright, I'm heading out. If you still want a ride, finish up. Naruto nodded, downing the last of his drink. Let's go. As they made their way out, Naruto couldn't help but glance back toward the club's entrance, where Kimiko and Yugito had just disappeared. The race to represent Suna was shaping up to be more than he'd bargained for, and he wouldn't have it any other way. Naruto groaned as he woke up, the sunlight slicing through his blinds like a blade through his skull. His mouth was dry, his head was pounding, and his body felt like it had gone 10 rounds in a boxing ring. He squinted at the clock on his bedside table. 8:30 a.m. Shit, he muttered, rubbing his face with both hands. Memories of the previous night floated hazily in his mind. He remembered winning the race, celebrating, and Temari begrudgingly driving him home after he'd unknowingly drunk himself silly. What was in those shots? He slapped his forehead, half expecting his card to be missing. Bolting upright, he threw on a hoodie and a pair of mismatched sneakers and raced downstairs to the parking garage. Relief washed over him when he saw his pristine white Aston Martin DB11 parked safely in its spot. "Dumbass," he muttered, smacking his forehead again. Temari had said she'd arrange for it to be towed. He felt like an idiot for panicking. Fishing his phone out of his pocket, he opened his messages. As expected, there were a few from his mom, Kushina. He scrolled past them with a mental note to reply later. One message caught his eye. "Temari. You owe me, dumbass. Getting your drunk ass into your apartment was annoying as hell." Naruto chuckled, typing back a response. "Naruto. You're just being a supportive teammate. Thanks, Mom." The reply came almost instantly. "Temari. Supportive my ass. People were looking at me like I was dragging my deadbeat husband home. Next time you get that hammered, I'm leaving your sorry ass wherever you pass out." Naruto smirked, shaking his head as he typed. "Naruto. Noted. I'll keep that in mind." Another buzz. "Temari. Good. Now quit being useless and meet me at Biteville tonight. There's someone I want you to meet." He stared at the message for a second before typing back. "Naruto. Fine. Be there." Putting the phone in his pocket, he trudged back upstairs to prepare for the day. On the way, his phone buzzed again. He groaned, expecting another sarcastic quip from Temari, but instead saw 6 missed calls from Sakura. "Crap," he whispered, staring at the screen like it was a bomb about to go off. His stomach twisted as he hit the call button. It barely rang once before Sakura picked up. "About time, you asshole," her voice hissed venomously through the receiver. "Why the fuck haven't you been answering your phone?" Naruto winced, holding the phone away from his ear. I've been kinda busy?" "Busy?" Sakura's tone was sharp enough to cut steel. "Doing what, exactly?" Naruto racked his brain for an excuse, finally blurting out, "I'm in Suna. Business stuff. You know, networking. Exploring opportunities. Lotta untapped potential here." Sakura replied, her tone ice cold. "And do these business opportunities involve paying me back the 50 grand you owe me?" Naruto sighed, shuffling into the bathroom and grabbing his toothbrush. "I'm working on it, alright? Work harder," she snapped. Brushing his teeth, Naruto mumbled around the phone, "You gotta get off my back about it. I know I owe you money. I don't need you reminding me every 5 seconds. Get off your back?" Sakura's voice rose several octaves. "I'll get off your back when you pay me back my goddamn money." Naruto spat into the sink and rinsed his mouth. "You don't have to nag me about it." "Geez, you're unbelievable," Sakura growled. "I don't even know why I agreed to lend you that much in the first place. Only you could blow through a couple million in a handout, date a literal money printer like Hinata, and still end up broke and owing me 50 grand. Naruto leaned against the sink, shrugging. "It's complicated. I don't give a shit," she snapped. "You have 2 weeks. 2 weeks. If I don't see my money by then, you're dead." "Dead, Naruto." The line went dead before he could reply. Naruto sighed, placing his phone on the sink and muttering a string of curses under his breath. Leaning over the sink, he stared at his reflection. His disheveled hair and tired eyes stared back at him. Borrowing money from Sakura to start a business had seemed like a great idea at the time. Gambling it away in a casino? Not so much. Maybe she's right, he muttered to himself. I do have terrible life decisions. But there wasn't time to dwell. He had a meeting with Temari, and probably another headache, waiting for him. Naruto pulled up to Biteville just as the neon, open, sign flickered in the darkness. He parked next to Temari's yellow Camaro, where muffled rap music spilled out from the closed windows. He grimaced. The beat was all right, but the lyrics were questionable. Why does it sound like someone rhymed money with honey 7 times in one verse? He muttered, shaking his head as he stepped out of his car. Inside the fast food joint, the smell of greasy fries and burgers assaulted his senses. Naruto spotted Temari immediately, sitting at a corner booth with a guy wearing a hood. The guy had his arms crossed, his posture radiating a mix of confidence and boredom. Naruto slid into the booth across from Temari, glancing at the hooded guy. Recognition sparked. This was the same dude from the club last night, the one bothering Yugito. Temari leaned back in her seat, gesturing lazily toward the guy. Naruto, meet Kankuro. He's gonna be our mechanic. Naruto extended his hand, his grin wide. Pleased to be working with you, man. Kankuro smirked, shaking Naruto's hand firmly. Likewise. Heard you're the new hotshot. Temari wouldn't shut up about your win last night. Naruto chuckled, scratching the back of his head. Well, you know, I do my thing. Kankuro turned to Temari, jerking his thumb toward Naruto. Alright, so what's the team's name, oh fearless leader? Temari opened her mouth to reply, but Naruto shot his hand up, cutting her off. Don't worry about it, I've got this covered. He gestured dramatically, as if unveiling a grand masterpiece. Hubby. Kankuro and Temari blinked at him, their expressions unreadable. The silence stretched long enough to get awkward. Temari finally broke it, her tone flat. It's garbage. Kankuro, on the other hand, let out a chuckle. Nah, man, I think it's dope. Naruto beamed, shaking Kankuro's hand again. See? Finally, someone with good taste. Kankuro leaned back in his seat, grinning. I like the sound of it. I can already picture the logo. Hell, I could even write a song with that name. Naruto perked up. Wait, you make music? Kankuro puffed out his chest. Damn right I do. I'm a rapper. Temari snorted, crossing her arms. More like an attempted rapper. Naruto ignored her, his curiosity piqued. No way. That's awesome. Is that why you were hanging around Yugito? I figured you guys were tight since her dad owns a record label. Kankuro laughed nervously, scratching the back of his head. Yeah, me and Yugi go way back. I'm trying to get her to hook me up with her family's label. Naruto nodded, his tone understanding. And? She agreed yet? Kankuro sighed, looking off to the side. It's a work in progress. Temari rolled her eyes, leaning forward with a sharp tone. Take a fucking hint, Kankuro. She's not signing your untalented ass. Naruto waved her off. Come on, Temari, stop trying to bring the guy down. Everyone starts somewhere. Kankuro pointed at Naruto. Exactly. Don't mind her, man. She's just a buzzkill. My music's actually gaining traction. Temari scoffed. Forcing me to play it in my car doesn't count. Kankuro smirked. It's called advertising. Temari shot back. It's called auditory terrorism. That's not even a real terrorism. Naruto raised his hands, cutting through their bickering. Alright. So, Kankuro, what do you go by as an artist? Kankuro grinned proudly, leaning forward. People know me as ventriloquist. Naruto raised an eyebrow. That's an interesting name. Kankuro nodded enthusiastically. It's 'cause my music breaks through barriers. It hits you straight in the soul, man. From the lips of my fans, no matter where I am. Temari stifled a laugh. At least in theory. Kankuro shot her a glare. Zip it. Turning back to Naruto, Kankuro smirked. Wanna hear some of my work? Naruto hesitated, scratching the back of his head awkwardly. Well, before he could finish, Kankuro was already reaching for his bag. Temari's eyes widened, and she groaned, burying her face in her hands. Oh my god, you didn't. Kankuro smirked as he placed a ventriloquist puppet on his lap. The puppet wore a tiny hoodie and a gold chain, looking every bit as ridiculous as it sounded. Naruto's jaw dropped. You're kidding. Kankuro started adjusting the puppet's tiny mic, but Temari cut in with a loud, awkward laugh. Okay, nope. Naruto would love to hear it, but I need to talk to him first. Kankuro shrugged. Alright, no rush. I brought a copy of my album in Temari's car. I'll hook you up later. Naruto smiled politely, but internally, he was thanking every deity he could think of for Temari's intervention. Temari leaned closer to Naruto, her voice dripping with exasperation. Welcome to the team. Naruto leaned back in the booth as Temari pushed a folder across the table toward him. The date's set, she said simply. Tomorrow night. Naruto perked up, his excitement barely contained. Hell yeah, who are we up against? Open the folder, Temari replied, smirking. She leaned forward, pointing at the document. This has the names, affiliations, and vehicles of all the drivers in tomorrow's race. Naruto scanned the pages, mumbling some of the names under his breath. His eyes stopped on one name in particular, Mabui. More importantly, her affiliation, Royal Flush. Temari caught the pause and smirked mischievously. See something you like? Naruto nodded, tapping the name. One of the drivers is from Royal Flush. Temari nodded knowingly. Mabui. Her dad owns that nightclub you were at last night. Kankuro, who had been half-heartedly scrolling through his phone, finally chimed in. And she's built like a goddess. Just saying. Naruto ignored him, setting the folder down. What's the deal with them anyway? Are all these royal flush girls just rich kids riding their parents' coattails? Temari shrugged. Pretty much. Naruto tapped his fingers on the table. So, what's her deal? Anything I should know about her driving? The file says she drives a Benz. That's probably something to keep an eye out for. Temari shook her head, leaning back in her seat with a small, smug smile. You don't need to bother with that info. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Why not? Temari stretched her arms lazily. Because I'm racing for our team tomorrow. Naruto blinked. The weight of the statement took a moment to settle in. Wait, you're racing? Temari rolled her eyes. Yes, genius. Did I stutter? Naruto leaned forward, narrowing his eyes. You better not screw this up. Temari scoffed, crossing her arms. Relax. I've already studied Mabui. Of the 3 royal flush girls, she's probably the most skilled driver. But she doesn't act like it. Naruto tilted his head. Wait, if she's that good, why isn't she running the show instead of Kimiko? Temari shrugged. She's timid, soft-spoken, total pushover. Doesn't have the same venom Kimiko does. So she steps back and lets Queen Bee take charge. Naruto tapped the folder again. What about her car? A Benz sounds like it'd wipe the floor with your Camaro. Temari smirked confidently, tapping her head. It's the driver that counts, not the car. And trust me, I've got this. Naruto nodded, satisfied. Alright, I'm counting on you. At least finish second. Kankuro, who had been quiet for a suspiciously long time, clapped his hands together. Speaking of cars, I'm gonna design a logo for us. Something badass. People will see it and know hubby's the real deal. Naruto laughed. Can't wait to see it, ventriloquist. Before Kankuro could reply, a loud crash sounded from outside, followed by the blaring of a car alarm. The noise drew the attention of everyone in the restaurant. Temari's eyes widened. Oh, hell no. She bolted for the door, with Naruto and Kankuro right behind her. They reached the parking lot to find Temari's yellow Camaro sitting there, its driver's side window shattered. Temari placed her hands on her head, her voice full of fury. You got to be kidding me. Kankuro rushed to the car, his jaw dropping. They turned off my music. Naruto stifled a laugh as the 3 of them inspected the damage. Temari and Kankuro searched for anything missing, but the only notable changes were the shattered window and 3 brand new copies of Kankuro's album, No Strings Attached, sitting neatly on the passenger seat. Temari's jaw dropped. They broke into my car. To turn off your music? Kankuro picked up a folded note left on the dashboard and read it aloud, his voice faltering halfway through. That shit is fucking trash. Never go near a studio again. You are absolute garbage. Silence fell over the group as the words sunk in. Naruto's lips twitched, barely holding back laughter. Wow, that's brutal. Temari immediately turned on Kankuro, pointing an accusing finger. This is your fault. If your shitty music didn't sound like a dying walrus. Kankuro cut her off. Don't blame me. This is sabotage. Someone's jealous of my talent. Temari threw her hands in the air. Jealous? Of what? Your ability to make people's ears bleed? Kankuro crossed his arms. Say what you want, but my album's gaining traction. Naruto murmured to himself, shaking his head as he glanced at the wrecked car. Man, they must have been really fed up. After a beat, he nodded to himself. Yeah, I totally get why this happened. Temari glared at him, not helping. Kankuro looked down at the CDs, then at Temari. So, do I leave these here or? Shut up, Kankuro. The underground parking garage hummed with energy. Engines rumbled, exhausts purred, and the faint sound of bass-heavy music leaked down from the nightclub above. Temari leaned lazily against her yellow Camaro, glancing with the logo Kankuro had sprayed on the side. A green snake coiled in an aggressive stance. Naruto stood next to her, fiddling with a half-eaten granola bar. You nervous? He asked, mouth full. Temari smirked, nudging his shoulder. Please, I'm not nervous about Mabui. Naruto tilted his head, eyeing the nearby purple BMW Z4 and the black and white Ford Mustang parked nearby. He chuckled, tossing the granola bar wrapper into a nearby trash can. Speaking of, what's taking her so long? Doesn't she practically own this club? Temari leaned in, lowering her voice. That's all for show. They had to make an entrance, you know. It's their thing. Before Naruto could reply, Sasori's voice cut through the chatter, echoing off the concrete walls. Listen up, Sasori barked, addressing the assembled racers. Tonight's race will be a little different. For one, don't assume the cops won't be on our asses. You've been warned. That's why the route is designed with quick escapes in mind. Use them wisely. The crowd murmured in agreement. One racer, leaning against his Mustang, called out. Yeah, what's the holdup? Sasori glanced at his watch, his lips thinning into a line. One racer's missing. If they're not here in 2 minutes, they're out. Simple as that. Naruto nudged Temari. 2 minutes? Maybe she's scared. Temari chuckled. Scared of me? Doubt it. She's probably fixing her makeup or something equally dramatic. Sasori sighed audibly, waving over one of his crew. Alright, eliminate driver number 3. No show means no. The deep rumble of engines interrupted him, the sound reverberating through the garage like thunder. All heads turned toward the entrance as 2 sleek cars rolled in, a blue Jaguar F-Type and a red Maserati Gran Cabria. The cars moved in tandem, their movements calculated, like part of a choreographed performance. Naruto whistled. That's some entrance. Temari smirked knowingly. Told you. They loved this shit. As the Jaguar and Maserati drew closer, they parted like loyal attendants, allowing a third car to emerge between them. A green Mercedes-Benz SL63, its polished exterior glinting under the harsh fluorescent lights. All 3 cars bore identical logos near the front quarter panel. A playing card motif, each adorned with a queen. Naruto squinted. Is that Queen of Diamonds, Spades, and Clovers? Jesus, they're laying it on thick. Temari laughed. That's royal flush for you. Subtlety's not their thing. The Jaguar and Maserati peeled off to the sides, parking with precision. The Benz, however, continued forward, stopping only when it reached the lineup of racers. Without hesitation, it began a controlled burnout, spinning 180 degrees before reversing smoothly into position between the Mustang and the BMW. Naruto blinked. Okay, I'll admit, that was pretty badass. The Benz's door opened, and Mabui stepped out. She wore a sleek black mini dress that hugged her figure, her confidence radiating as she leaned casually against her car door. Her eyes swept over the competition with quiet intensity. Behind her, the other Royal Flush drivers exited their vehicles. Kimiko, in her crimson Maserati, adjusted her oversized sunglasses with a dramatic flourish, while Yugito, dressed in a sharp leather jacket, leaned against her Jaguar with a cold, detached expression. Sasori raised his voice. Now that Royal Flush has finally graced us with their presence, we can get started. However, following the earlier confusion, I need to confirm who will be representing their team. Mabui opened her mouth to speak, but Kimiko cut her off from where she lounged against her car hood. That'll be Mabui, the crowd murmured, turning to look at her. Kimiko removed her sunglasses dramatically, her piercing gaze locking onto Sasori. It's been decided. She's racing tonight. Yugito's icy voice chimed in. It's fucking obvious, isn't it? She's already in position. Why are we wasting time? Mabui winced slightly but nodded. Yes, I'll be representing Royal Flush tonight. The tension in the air was palpable, but Sasori merely nodded. Alright, let's get this show on the road. Racers, ready? Temari raised her hand. Hubby's ready. Yugito sighed dramatically. Everyone's ready. Let's quit wasting time. Another racer chimed in. Seriously, we've been here forever. Naruto patted Temari on the shoulder as she climbed into the Camaro. You've got this. Bring it home. Temari nodded. Like I'd let these drama queens steal the spotlight. Mabui hesitated before climbing into her Benz, turning to her opponents with a polite smile. Good luck, everyone. Kimiko's voice cut through the moment like a blade. Mabui flinched, her gaze dropping. Sorry. She slipped into her car, closing the door with a soft click. Naruto chuckled. Man, they're intense. Temari gripped her steering wheel, her eyes fixed on Mabui's Benz. She exhaled, a competitive grin spreading across her face. Alright, Royal Flush, let's see what you've got. The streets of Suna were quiet at night, with only the occasional murmur of distant traffic or the faint buzz of a neon sign to break the silence. A teenage boy walked down one of the inner streets, nodding along to the beat pumping through his headphones. His phone screen cast a faint glow on his face as he scrolled idly, the rough asphalt beneath his feet illuminated by the dim, scattered lights from nearby houses. He turned the corner, his apartment building just a block away, when the serene night shattered. A pair of blinding headlights came screaming over the hill in front of him. "What the hell?" the boy yelled, diving to the side as a Ford Mustang GT500 soared over the slope, its tires leaving the ground for a brief moment before slamming back down. Sparks flew as the car hit the asphalt, its engine roaring like a beast unleashed. Hot on its tail was a green Mercedes-Benz SL63, a blur of polished metal and relentless speed. The boy scrambled to his feet, clutching his phone as a police cruiser blared past, sirens wailing. He stood there, wide-eyed, as the cars tore away, disappearing into the roundabout ahead. "This city's insane," he muttered, shaking his head and jogging the rest of the way home. On the roundabout, chaos unfolded. The Mustang and the Benz skidded into the curve, tires screeching as they fought for position. The Mustang barely held its line, drifting dangerously close to the curb before recovering and shooting out onto a two-lane street to the left. Just as they exited, two more cars, a yellow Camaro and a purple BMW Z4, entered the roundabout from another road, mirroring the first pair's movements with synchronized precision. They weaved through traffic with reckless elegance, cutting into the same exit as their rivals. Behind them, another police cruiser joined the chase, its lights reflecting off the polished paint of the street racers' cars. Inside the Camaro, Temari's grip on the wheel was firm as she maneuvered through the narrow streets. Her eyes locked on the Mustang ahead, scanning for an opening. The car's taillights flared as it took another hard turn, leaving her barely enough time to follow. Come on," she muttered, dodging a parked van on her right and swerving left to avoid a sedan pulling out of a driveway. Her focus was razor sharp, the adrenaline coursing through her veins keeping her reflexes sharp. Her car phone crackled to life, Naruto's voice breaking through. "Temari, cut through 12th Street. You're heading straight into a mess. Trust me, you don't want to deal with it," she growled under her breath. Noted. Switching to her walkie-talkie, she keyed the mic. "Hey Ford fanboy," her voice laced with playful venom, "you call that driving? My grandma corners better than that." Ahead, the Mustang swerved slightly, the driver clearly rattled. Temari smirked, cutting right to overtake an SUV whose horn blared in protest. She merged back onto the main lane, forcing the Mustang onto the opposite side of the road. But the police car behind her wasn't giving up. Its bumper nudged hers, and her Camaro wobbled momentarily as her rear tires squealed. "Goddammit," Temari cursed, her mind racing as she thought of a way to shake the cops. Up ahead, the Mustang braked hard, tires screeching as it veered into a narrow side street. Behind her, the BMW Z4 stayed glued to her tail, the driver refusing to let up. Temari's eyes darted to her left, spotting a thread-thin entrance between two rows of shops. But the street ahead curved slightly, perfect for losing the cops if she played it right. "Okay," she muttered, swerving to avoid a motorcycle. "Time to gamble." She flicked on her car phone again. "Naruto, you there?" Naruto's voice came through, calm but curious. "What's up?" Temari exhaled, steadying herself as her Camaro hit the crest of a narrow hill. The car momentarily lifted off the ground before landing back on the street with a spray of sparks. "I'm taking the long road," she said, her voice resolute. Naruto hesitated for half a second. "The long road? You sure? That's risky as hell." "Yeah, well, so is having a police bumper shoved up my ass," Temari shot back. "I know what I'm doing." Naruto sighed. "Alright, just don't wreck the car. Kankuro will cry, and I don't want to deal with that." Temari grinned despite herself, gripping the wheel tighter. "I'll keep that in mind." She steeled herself for the chaos ahead. The city lights blurred as her Camaro roared forward, weaving between obstacles with precision. She wasn't just racing anymore, she was surviving. "Let's do this," she muttered, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. The Camaro's engine roared as Temari slammed her foot on the gas, the car surging forward. The road split ahead, dividing into two lanes that led to different routes through Suna's labyrinthine streets. Up ahead, she caught sight of the green SL63, Mabui's ride, barreling toward the same narrow, curving street she was aiming for. Temari tightened her grip on the wheel, smirking. "Looks like I'm not the only one with that idea." The two cars streaked into the street at high speed, the transition from the open road to the claustrophobic alley pressing in on them. On either side, rows of buildings loomed, their shadows swallowing the street in jagged patches. Kiosks and parked scooters blurred past as Temari kept her focus on the glowing taillights of Mabui's Benz. Her walkie crackled to life. Temari keyed the mic, her tone teasing. For a second, I thought I'd have this shortcut all to myself. Guess rich girls like cutting corners too. Mabui's soft voice came through, calm and composed despite the chaos. Best way to lose the cops. And I expected you to be good, Temari. Temari grinned. Glad to hear I'm living up to the hype. But it's not going to help you win tonight. We'll see about that, Mabui replied smoothly. May the best driver win. Temari's grin widened, her adrenaline surging. Oh, I plan to. The street narrowed further as the two cars hurtled forward, weaving through the tight space with surgical precision. Temari's tires grazed a potted plant, scattering leaves across the pavement, but she didn't let up. Ahead, Mabui's SL63 took the next curve with ease, its taillights dipping slightly as the car bumped over a rough patch. The only sounds were the roaring engines and the whoosh of air as they zipped past buildings and parked vehicles. Temari glanced at her speedometer. 150 kilometers per hour. Her chest tightened. Any misstep at this speed and she wouldn't just wreck her car. She'd be pulling debris out of her teeth for weeks. The road sloped downward sharply, and Temari's breath caught as both cars caught air. The alley opened briefly onto a two-lane street, a dangerous gap between alleys. Mabui's Benz flew across the divide, narrowly missing the hood of a truck. Its horn blared in outrage, but Mabui's car had already disappeared into the next alley. Shit, Temari hissed as her Camaro followed. The ground fell away beneath her, and for a split second, the car hung in the air. The truck's horn rang out again, but she cleared its hood with inches to spare, slamming back onto the uneven alley pavement with a bone-jarring thud. Her car wobbled, and she gritted her teeth, wrestling the wheel to keep it under control. Come on, girl, don't quit on me now. Her radio crackled again. Mabui's voice returned, light and amused. Still keeping up, I see. Temari smirked, flipping the switch. Don't get too comfortable up there, Mabui. I'm just getting started. She leaned into the wheel, eyes narrowing. Her mind raced almost as fast as her car. Could she force a mistake out of Mabui? Maybe a sudden maneuver or a feint? But Mabui was smooth, frustratingly so. The Benz slid around like it was glued to the pavement. The alley twisted sharply again, leaving no room for error. Temari's focus was absolute, the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Suddenly, Mabui's car clipped a dumpster, sending it spinning directly into Temari's path. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Temari yelled, jerking the wheel. The Camaro slammed into the dumpster, trash exploding onto the hood and windshield. God damn it, Mabui, she barked into the radio, batting a stray banana peel off her windshield with the wipers. Mabui's laugh crackled through the speaker. Oops, sorry about that. Her voice was soft, but the amusement was unmistakable. You're not sorry, Temari growled, punching the gas. Both cars tore through the final stretch of the claustrophobic alley, the uneven pavement bouncing them mercilessly. Temari's suspension groaned, but she ignored it. The expressway loomed ahead, a tantalizing escape from the pressing walls and treacherous terrain of the alleys. Temari gritted her teeth, her focus razor sharp. The race wasn't over, not by a long shot. The narrow alley yawned open, spilling onto the expressway like a floodgate releasing chaos. Up ahead, Mabui's SL63 braked hard, its taillights flaring as it adjusted for the sudden change in terrain. Temari's instincts kicked in. Not today, she hissed, jerking the wheel to veer around Mabui. Her Camaro shot forward, tires screeching as she entered the expressway with a wide drift. The world tilted as her car fishtailed, narrowly avoiding a sedan whose horn screamed in protest. Temari gritted her teeth, straightening the wheel. Behind her, Mabui's Benz roared back into motion, gunning down the expressway like a green bullet. Oh, hell no, Temari growled, slamming her foot on the gas. Mabui pulled alongside her, the elegant Benz gliding through traffic like it was choreographed. Temari's Camaro, with its raw power, growled in protest as it tried to keep pace. You've got some nerve pulling that stunt in the alley, Temari called into her walkie, her voice sharp with adrenaline. Mabui's soft voice came through, calm but tinged with amusement. You're still here, aren't you? I thought you'd appreciate the challenge. Temari smirked, weaving around a slow-moving truck. Challenge? Sweetheart, you just pissed me off. Behind them, the Mustang surged forward, its aggressive engine roar cutting through the night. Temari glanced in her rearview mirror. And look who's trying to crash the party, she muttered. The three cars tore down the expressway, dodging traffic like an intricate dance. Mabui's Benz swerved gracefully around a hatchback, its tires whispering against the asphalt. Temari followed close behind, her Camaro roaring with raw energy as it barreled past a minivan inches to spare. Naruto's voice crackled through the carphone. Yo, Temari, the guy in the BMW got busted a few blocks back. Cops got him pinned. Temari snorted. No shit. Good riddance. That means fewer distractions for you, Naruto continued. Bring it home, Temari. You've got this. Temari kept her eyes on Mabui's Benz, her grip tightening on the wheel. I'm trying, Naruto. Trust me, I'm trying. She exhaled sharply, her gaze locking onto the green car ahead. Alright, Mabui, bring it on. Mabui hugged the inside lane, her car weaving smoothly through a trio of vehicles ahead. Temari cursed as a box truck blocked her line of sight. Think, Temari, she muttered, scanning the lanes. A gap appeared in the next lane over, just wide enough for her Camaro. She jerked the wheel, her car sliding into the gap before slingshotting past the truck. She returned to Mabui's tail, her engine growling like an animal ready to pounce. Still think you can outrun me? Temari taunted over the walkie. Mabui's reply came, soft but resolute. I know I can, but I'll admit, you're better than I expected. Better? I'm about to blow past you. Mabui chuckled lightly. You'll have to catch me first. Temari's eyes narrowed. She watched as Mabui veered left, the SL-63 dodging a slow sedan with calculated precision. Temari mirrored the move, their cars now neck and neck. Her mind raced almost as fast as her car. She's too smooth. If I can rattle her, I might force a mistake. She edged closer, her Camaro's nose almost kissing Mabui's rear bumper. Mabui adjusted, moving the lane over. You're persistent, Mabui noted. And you're about to get wrecked, Temari shot back. A cluster of cars loomed ahead. Mabui darted through a narrow opening between a van and a hatchback, her car sliding through like a needle threading fabric. Temari grunted, forced to brake slightly before following. Damn it, she muttered. Up ahead, the exit loomed, Mabui signaling her intent by veering right. Temari followed, her focus razor sharp. Both cars screamed off the expressway and onto a wide street, their tires screeching as they re-entered the labyrinth of Suna's cityscape. The buildings closed in again, the tight streets offering little room for error. Behind them, the Mustang stayed in pursuit, but it was clear the race had boiled down to just two contenders. Mabui's calm voice crackled through the walkie. I hope you know the route well, Temari. We're almost there. Temari scoffed. Don't you worry about me. Worry about that fancy car of yours. The finish line was at the intersection of 4th and 12th, but the streets twisted unpredictably. Temari knew if she wanted to win, she'd need one final gambit. One shot, she murmured, her gaze locked on the Benz. Mabui took the lead into a sharp right turn. Temari followed, braking hard to avoid slamming into a parked car. The final stretch came into view, a long, straight road leading to the finish. Temari floored the gas, her car surging forward, inching closer to Mabui's rear bumper. But Mabui's SL-63 held firm, its smooth acceleration keeping her just ahead. Temari growled, come on, come on. The two cars roared past the intersection of 4th and 12th in a blur of motion. Mabui's Benz crossed first, with Temari's Camaro a hair's breadth behind. The Mustang trailed in third, its driver peeling off into a side street. Mabui and Temari's cars split in opposite directions, disappearing into the shadows. In the safety of a darkened alley, Temari slammed her hands against the wheel, cursing under her breath. God damn it, she muttered. Second place? Seriously? Naruto's voice came through the carphone, trying to console her. You were close, Temari. Really close. She huffed, her frustration still raw. Yeah, well, close doesn't count. Still, as she drove into the night, she couldn't help but smirk. Next time, Mabui. Next time. The moon hung low over Suna, its silver light casting faint glows on the quiet street. Naruto and Temari walked side by side, their steps echoing softly against the pavement. Naruto shoved his hands in his pockets, glancing at Temari out of the corner of his eye. Hey, you did good out there, you know. Temari rolled her eyes. Sure, if you count second place as good. Naruto smirked. Second place means we still qualified. Plus, you were talking a lot of shit back there. Kinda funny how Mabui shut you down, huh? Temari shot him a glare sharp enough to cut steel. Watch your mouth, Uzumaki. At least I didn't have to pull some underhanded crap to win like you always do. Naruto raised his hands defensively, grinning. Hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. Besides, if you don't cheat, you don't eat. That's how it works in this world. Temari huffed, looking away. Yeah, and that's why you got packed up in the finals last year. Naruto winced. Okay, low blow. But let's be real, Mabui's Benz? That was superior German engineering at its finest. You can't even be mad. Temari sighed, kicking a stray cat on the street. Fine, I'll admit she's good. But we need to start planning for the next race. We can't just keep reacting. Naruto nodded, his grin fading slightly as the topic turned serious. True, we need a solid strategy this time. Maybe even some countermeasures for Royal Flush. Those girls are way too coordinated. The two turned into the parking garage, the quiet space yawning before them like a cavern. Naruto squinted as they stepped inside. Why is it so dark in here? Did the lights go out or something? Before Temari could reply, a single pair of headlights blazed to life at the far end of the garage. The sudden illumination outlined the silhouette of a young woman standing confidently in front of the car. She stood tall, hand on her hip, the picture of smug defiance. Temari groaned, dragging her hand down her face. Oh, for fuck's sake. Naruto blinked. What the hell is? Two more sets of headlights flicked on, revealing two additional women flanking the first. The woman in the center stepped forward, her sleek black boots clicking against the concrete. Her dark, wavy hair framed her sharp features, her smirk both mocking and playful. Kimiko Yuhi, Naruto muttered, his stomach sinking. Yugito sat perched on the hood of her car, legs crossed in a casual but confident pose. She gave Naruto a slow once-over, her lips curling into a lazy smile. Mabui leaned casually against her car, arms crossed, her expression cool and indifferent. Kimiko's voice cut through the silence, smooth and dripping with amusement. Naruto Uzumaki, Temari, or should I call you both? Hubby? Temari crossed her arms, eyeing the trio standing confidently before her. She cleared her throat, her voice steady as she addressed them. Kimiko, Mabui, Yugito, or should I say, Royal Flush? To what do I owe the? Kimiko strode forward with practiced elegance, her designer glasses catching what little light the dark garage offered. Her tailored leather jacket swayed slightly with her movement, exuding the aura of someone used to being in control. Naruto leaned slightly toward Temari, muttering under his breath. Glasses? In a pitch-black garage? What is this, a music video? Kimiko stopped in front of him, tilting her head as if she'd heard him. She slowly slid her glasses off with a dramatic flourish, her eyes scanning him like a disapproving teacher. Naruto Uzumaki, I thought you would be the one behind the wheel tonight. Yugito leaned forward from her seat on her car hood, smirking. Looks like your girlfriend stepped up instead. Temari took a step forward, her glare sharp enough to cut glass. First of all, I'm not his girlfriend. Second, what do you want from us? Your girl Mabui already won. You happy? Kimiko's lips curled into a soft smile as she turned her gaze to Temari. I just wanted to see for myself the driver who pushed Mabui so hard. Call it curiosity. Her eyes wandered over Temari, her smile sharpening slightly. Though now that I've met you, I think I'll just keep my expectations low next time. Temari didn't miss the dig. She raised an eyebrow and shot back with her own subtle jab. Funny, I'd say the same about you, but my expectations were already on the floor. Kimiko's smirk deepened, and her tone turned icy but playful. You're quick with your words, I'll give you that. Pity your driving doesn't match. Naruto stifled a laugh, covering his mouth with his hand. Temari shot him a deadly glare. Not a word. She crossed her arms, glaring at Kimiko. What do you want, Yuhi? We're not in the mood for whatever nonsense you're about to pull. Kimiko feigned a look of shock, placing a hand on her chest. Nonsense? Temari, I'm hurt. Can't I just drop by to congratulate my rivals? Naruto scoffed. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly why you're here. Yugito chimed in, her voice sultry. Oh, we're just here to say hello. No hard feelings about the race, right? Naruto straightened up, still grinning. His eyes flicked to the cars behind the trio. He noted the motifs painted elegantly on their front quarter panels. Kimiko's Maserati bore a Queen of Diamonds motif. Yugito's Jaguar had the Queen of Spades, and Mabui's green Benz sported a Queen of Clubs. He muttered to himself, "Royal flush, huh? Gotta admit, the poker aesthetic's kinda sick." Temari waved her hand dismissively at Kimiko. "If you're trying to intimidate us, it's not going to work." Kimiko's smirk deepened, her tone as cool as ever. "Intimidate you? Darling, no. That would imply you're a threat." Naruto chimed in, his grin widening. "Hey, real quick, why do you call yourselves Royal Flush when there's only 3 of you?" He paused, feigning confusion. "If you're all queens, and there are only 3 of you, shouldn't you be called 3 of a kind?" Mabui perked up, nodding enthusiastically. "I did suggest that before, but—" Kimiko cut her off, snapping her head toward Mabui, her tone sharp. "For the last time, no one cares, Mabui. It sounds cool, and that's all that matters." Mabui's enthusiasm deflated as she shrank back slightly. "Oh, okay." Temari chuckled, shaking her head. "Wrong again. It sounds like shit. Literally. Like, flush. Are we talking toilets here?" Yugito's expression darkened as she straightened up, crossing her arms. "Watch your mouth, Blondie. You don't know who you're messing with. Be careful starting shit with the wrong people." Naruto shrugged nonchalantly. "What can I say? We like gunning for the biggest and the strongest. And let's be honest, smug assholes like you make it that much more fun." Kimiko tilted her head, giving him an appraising look. "I'll give you this, Uzumaki. You're decent at what you do. It's why hubby's holding on to that precious little number 2 ranking in the league, with that other team from Kiri breathing down your neck." She leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a sarcastically sweet tone. "But let's not pretend that your little, basement brawl matters to number 1, me. There's an insurmountable canyon of quality between us. So, whatever this little rivalry you think we have is, cherish it while it lasts." Temari scoffed, crossing her arms. "We'll see about that. Daddy's money can only carry you so far, Yuhi." Mabui perked up again, her tone eager. "I'll take that challenge. Let's race again and—" Yugito groaned audibly, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Goddammit, Mabui, we fucking talked about this." Kimiko shot Mabui a sharp glare, her voice snapping like a whip. "Just get in the car, Mabui." Mabui blinked, retreating shyly as she slipped into her car. "Why yes, ma'am." Temari threw her hands up. "Okay, enough of this cat and mouse crap. Are you guys done?" Kimiko's smirk didn't waver. "Just want to remind you who you're up against. Royal Flush doesn't just play the game, we own it. Don't forget that when you're planning your next little scheme." Naruto rolled his eyes. Yeah, you're scary. We get it." Kimiko stepped closer, her gaze sharp. "Good. Make sure you do get it, Uzumaki." The tension hung thick in the air as the 3 women watched them in silence. Finally, Temari sighed, waving a hand dismissively. "Fine, you've had your fun. Can we leave now?" With a smirk, Kimiko snapped her fingers, turning on her heel as she walked toward her Maserati. Yugito sighed in exasperation, muttering under her breath as she climbed into her own vehicle. The engines roared to life, echoing through the garage as the trio drove off in a neat formation. Kimiko in the lead, Yugito close behind, and Mabui bringing up the rear. As they disappeared, the lights in the garage flickered on, bathing the space in an artificial glow. Naruto folded his arms, glancing at Temari. "You did great, Temari. Really, pissing off the most powerful team in the league? Genius move." Temari huffed, brushing past him. "Those rich assholes don't deserve anything less." Naruto smirked. Sure, but thanks to you, we're 1-0 down against Royal Toilet." Temari shrugged, unfazed. "Mabui's their best driver anyway. The others aren't that special." Naruto chuckled, shaking his head. Sure. Still, you're on fraud watch, Temari. One bad race is all it takes." Temari shot him a withering glare. "Knock it off, Naruto. I'm allowed to have a stinker once in a while, aren't I?" Naruto laughed, throwing an arm around her shoulders as they made their way toward his Aston Martin. Yeah, just don't make it a habit, or I'll have to carry this team on my back." Temari rolled her eyes, though a small smile tugged at her lips. The 2 walked on, already planning their next move. The Cage's office was thick with tension, as oppressive as the desert heat outside. Rasa sat behind his expansive desk, his fingers drumming angrily on the polished wood. His golden eyes burned with frustration as he glared at Toshiro, the chief of Suna's police department, who stood stiffly before him. To Rasa's right, Matsuri adjusted her glasses, reading aloud from a binder filled with meticulously organized reports. Her voice was calm, almost clinical, in stark contrast to her employer's boiling temper. The latest street race caused an estimated 112,350 ryo in damages, Matsuri said, flipping a page. This includes destruction of public property, lamp posts, trash bins, and street signs, as well as civilian vehicle repairs from collisions caused by reckless driving. She paused, not to mention the overturned delivery truck on 9th Avenue. The driver suffered minor injuries, thankfully, but the cargo was a complete loss. Ross's fist slammed on the desk, rattling the ornate sand gourd perched on the corner. 100,000 ryo, he roared. Do you know what that could have been spent on? Infrastructure, education, anything but this. This circus of metal and maniacs. Toshiro cleared his throat, standing rigid. Keisuke-sama, the police force is doing everything we can. We've increased patrols, set up checkpoints. Rasa cut him off, his voice sharp. And yet these vehicular terrorists are still running wild through my streets. What's next, Toshiro? A tanker explosion? A civilian casualty? At this rate, they'll have the whole city in flames. Toshiro shifted uncomfortably. With respect, Keisuke-sama, these racers are organized and… Rasa raised a hand to silence him, his tone turning icy. Don't you dare excuse their actions with your organization nonsense. I don't care if they're the most disciplined gang of idiots the world has ever seen. I want results. Matsuri glanced up from her binder, pushing her glasses higher on her nose. Keisuke-sama, if I may interject. No, Matsuri, you may not, Rasa snapped, leaning forward. His attention was locked on Toshiro. We're going to channel more resources into curbing this madness. You'll get better cars, fewer bureaucratic restrictions, and whatever else you need to do your damn job. Toshiro blinked, taken aback. Keisuke-sama, while I appreciate the support, there are still legal protocols. To hell with your protocols. Rasa barked, standing up abruptly. His chair scraped against the floor, and Matsuri flinched slightly. I'm the damn Keisuke. If I say the police need supercharged cruisers to keep up with these lunatics, then so be it. Do I make myself clear? Toshiro hesitated before nodding. Yes, Keisuke-sama, but… Rasa didn't let him finish. He began pacing, his frustration boiling over into a near rant. We'll slap tracking devices on every suspicious car. Hell, I'll personally authorize deploying SWAT to puncture their tires mid-race if that's what it takes. These delinquents think they own Suna. I'll show them whose city this is. Matsuri cleared her throat delicately, drawing both men's attention. Keisuke-sama, might I suggest that we consult with the council before reallocating state funds? It's important to maintain transparency. Rasa pinched the bridge of his nose, exhaling sharply. Fine, call a council meeting, but mark my words, Matsuri, this isn't up for debate. Those bastards are costing us a fortune, and I'll be damned if I let them make fools of us. Toshiro spoke up cautiously. Keisuke-sama, the racers are highly skilled. Even if we upgrade our vehicles, matching their precision will take time and training. Rasa slammed his palm on the desk again, cutting him off. Then train faster. What do you want me to do, Toshiro? Sit here and twiddle my thumbs while they turn my city into a racetrack? No, we're taking action, now. Toshiro's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Understood, Keisuke-sama. Rasa sat back down heavily, his golden eyes blazing. Good. Dismissed. I want a full strategy proposal on my desk by tomorrow morning. And Hikako? The police chief paused at the door, turning back. Yes, Keisuke-sama? Don't screw this up. I'm not in the mood for excuses. Toshiro bowed stiffly and exited, leaving Matsuri and Rasa alone in the now tense silence. Matsuri closed the binder, glancing at her furious boss. Keisuke-sama, might I suggest taking a moment to breathe? Stress isn't good for… Rasa glared at her, and she immediately shut her mouth. These damn racers. Rasa muttered under his breath, rubbing his temples. I'll crush them if it's the last thing I do. Matsuri sighed softly, resigning herself to what was bound to be another long week in Suna's war against the streets. The warm, inviting smell of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods filled the air of the small cafe in downtown Suna. Kimiko, Yugito, and Mabui sat around a polished wooden table near the window, sunlight filtering through blinds to create patterns on their plates. Mabui was nibbling on a flaky croissant, Yugito was halfway through her black coffee, and Kimiko was scrolling idly through her phone while stirring her latte. Yugito leaned back in her chair, her fingers tapping impatiently against the armrest. She looked annoyed, her eyes narrowed as she recounted the previous day. First, my delivery gets delayed because some genius decided to block off half the street with construction, Yugito grumbled. Then I had to deal with an idiot who rear-ends me in traffic. And to top it all off, I lost 50 ryo on a stupid claw machine. She crossed her arms, glaring at the untouched pastry in front of her. Mabui leaned forward, trying to offer a small smile. At least the car wasn't seriously damaged, right? And you didn't lose more than 50. It could have been worse. Yugito gave her a deadpan stare. Thanks for the pep talk, Mabui. Really helping. Mabui shrugged, retreating back into her croissant. Kimiko, seated at the head of the table, casually stirred her latte. She glanced up, brushing an errant strand of her perfectly styled hair back into place. All right. Enough doom and gloom. We've got tonight's race to look forward to. A little adrenaline might help you blow off some steam, Yugito. She turned to Mabui. You got the route, right? Mabui nodded quickly, pulling out her phone. Why yeah, Sasori sent it over earlier. I'll text it to you guys now. She typed furiously for a few moments, then set her phone down. Yugito's phone buzzed, and she opened the message. Her eyebrow arched almost immediately. Hold up. The route goes through the subway? Kimiko raised an eyebrow, leaning forward. What? Mabui looked up sheepishly. Yeah, Sasori said it's to keep the cops off our backs for most of the race. Kimiko stiffened, her brow furrowing. She muttered to herself, barely audible over the cafe noise. Cops won't be able to follow us for most of the race, huh? And those assholes from Hubby will be there, too. She paused, drumming her fingers on the table as her mind raced. Finally, she sighed and chuckled dryly, mumbling to herself. Guess I better keep my ass in the nightclub tonight. Otherwise I'm finished. Yugito snorted into her coffee. Is everything okay, boss? Kimiko ignored her, snapping her fingers to get their attention. Alright, listen up, you two are racing tonight. Mabui nodded, already anticipating this, while Yugito simply huffed. Yugito glanced at her phone again. Won't running through the subway just give the cops a chance to ambush us when we pop back out? It's like gift wrapping ourselves for them. Mabui shrugged, her voice calm as always. Sasori just said, the racers will figure it out. Yugito chuckled darkly. Great. Love his confidence. She turned to Kimiko, grinning. Good thing we've got you to call off the dogs, huh? Kimiko smirked but didn't look amused. Sure, I can make some calls to keep the cops off us when we exit the subway. But if we're not the first ones out of that tunnel, you can kiss that plan goodbye. She turned sharply to Mabui, startling her. There's no room for fuck-ups, Mabui. Got it? I don't care how tight the turns are or how many idiots block your path. You have to come out on top. I can only cover your asses if you're leading the pack. Mabui nodded solemnly, taking mental notes. Understood. Yugito let out a huff, leaning back lazily. Yeah, same old, same old. Kimiko shot her a sharp look. It's not, same old. This isn't just about cops chasing us. You should be more worried about not getting atomized by an oncoming train down there in the subway. Yugito rolled her eyes, lighting a cigarette and taking a drag. Fine. We'll handle it. Hopefully, the cops focus on busting those pricks from Hubby instead of us. Kimiko's frown deepened as her eyes landed on the cigarette. She gestured to the fluffy cat sitting on Yugito's lap, casually pawing at the tablecloth. Are you serious right now, Yugito? How many times have I told you not to smoke around us? There's a fucking cat here. You trying to give Maatatabi lung cancer, or what? Yugito groaned, blowing a stream of smoke upward. The cat's fine. Don't be so dramatic. Kimiko crossed her arms, her tone sharp. Put it out. Now. Mabui watched the exchange, her expression awkward. Yugito sighed heavily, muttering under her breath as she stubbed the cigarette out in a nearby ashtray. There, happy? Kimiko leaned back, satisfied. Ecstatic. Mabui gave Yugito a small shrug, attempting a smile. Yugito just shook her head, muttering something inaudible as she stroked the cat on her lap. The three sat in silence for a moment before Kimiko clapped her hands together. Alright, tonight's going to be a shit show, but we're going to handle it. Get your heads in the game. No distractions, no screw-ups. Let's show those idiots from Hubby why we're number one. Mabui nodded again, her quiet resolve clear. We'll make it through. Kimiko raised her latte in a mock toast. Damn right you will. To victory tonight. Yugito sighed but clinked her cup against Kimiko's. Mabui hesitated before doing the same, her smile shy but hopeful. As they settled back into their respective breakfasts, Kimiko leaned her chin on her hand, glancing out the window. Despite her composed exterior, she couldn't shake the feeling that tonight's race would be anything but routine. Mabui's hand suddenly froze midair as she stared across the cafe, her expression a mix of awe and panic. Kimiko, she whispered urgently. Look over there. Kimiko frowned, lowering her latte. What is it? Mabui gestured subtly with her chin. The Cage's son, Gaara. He's sitting over there. Kimiko stiffened, her posture snapping straight as if she'd been electrocuted. She quickly turned to follow Mabui's gaze, her breath catching when she spotted Gaara seated alone at a corner table, sipping coffee and focused on his phone. Oh my god, it is him, Kimiko gasped, her voice a mix of shock and giddy excitement. She immediately began fussing with her hair. Why didn't you say something sooner? Mabui blinked. I literally just did. Kimiko ignored her, smoothing her designer jacket and fluffing her wavy hair. Do I look okay? Mabui, tell me I look okay. Mabui opened her mouth to respond, but Kimiko waved her off before she could speak. Never mind, what am I saying? Of course I look great. I always look great. Yugito, leaning back lazily with her arms crossed, raised an eyebrow. Do you really think he can see you from here? Kimiko shot her a sharp look. Of course, he can see me. He's going to notice me. She gave a smug little toss of her hair, already imagining the scene playing out in her head. Yugito sighed, exhaling loudly. This is going to be painful to watch. Mabui hesitated, then softly said, maybe you should go over and talk to him. You know what? I should go talk to him. Kimiko cut her off, standing abruptly as if it were her own brilliant idea. Mabui slumped in her seat, defeated, as Kimiko adjusted her jacket one last time and strode confidently toward Gaara's table. Gaara sat in his usual corner, sipping his coffee and scrolling through his phone. He frowned slightly, reading over a text from his sister. No, I'm not avoiding you, the message read. I'm busy. Gaara sighed. He was fairly certain she was lying, but he wasn't in the mood to press the issue. Switching to his other messages, he scrolled past an alarming number of unread texts from her. Kimiko Yuhi. Of course, he muttered, pinching the bridge of his nose. Kimiko had been relentless since high school. No matter how clear he made his disinterest, she always found a way to push herself into his orbit. As if summoned by his thoughts, a shadow fell across his table. He looked up to find none other than Kimiko sliding gracefully into the seat across from him. Gaara, she greeted, flashing him a dazzling smile. Fancy seeing you here. Gaara groaned inwardly, forcing himself to keep a neutral expression. Kimiko. Hi. She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. It's been a while, hasn't it? You've been keeping busy, I'm sure. Cage's son and all. Something like that, he replied curtly, sipping his coffee in hopes she'd take the hint. She didn't. So, what brings you here today? She asked, her tone light and conversational. Coffee. Kimiko laughed, as if he'd said something hilarious. Of course, coffee. Always so focused and practical. It's one of the things I admire about you. Gaara raised an eyebrow. Right. Undeterred, Kimiko continued. You know, I was just talking to my friends about you. We were saying how impressive you are, managing everything you do with such poise. Gaara muttered, glancing at his phone. Kimiko leaned forward, propping her chin on her hand. I didn't know you came here. Isn't this place just the cutest? I mean, look at the decor. So chic, right? Gaara stared at her blankly. I come here because it's quiet. Kimiko beamed. Exactly. A man of taste. That's what I've always admired about you, Gaara. You've got this whole brooding, intellectual vibe going on. It's so mysterious. Gaara blinked slowly, considering his options for escape. Undeterred, Kimiko continued. You know, I've been meaning to catch up with you. It's been, what, a few months since we last talked like this. 3 years, Gaara corrected. Kimiko reached across the table, lightly tapping his hand. You're so serious all the time. Have you thought about taking a break? Maybe spending some time with someone who can help you relax? Gaara stared at her, unimpressed. Like a therapist? Kimiko blinked, momentarily thrown off. I was thinking more along the lines of, me. Gaara sighed, setting down his cup. Kimiko, I appreciate the offer. But I'm not really looking for anything right now. She pouted, tilting her head. Oh, come on, Gaara. It doesn't have to be serious. Just a little coffee date. No harm in that, right? Gaara hesitated, knowing from experience that outright refusal would only lead to more pestering. Fine, coffee. One time. Kimiko's face lit up like a Christmas tree. Perfect. You won't regret it. She stood up, smoothing her jacket. I'll text you the details. Don't worry, I'll handle everything. As she walked away, practically skipping back to her table, Gaara rubbed his temples. What the hell just happened? He muttered to himself. Back at her table, Kimiko sat down triumphantly. Mabui gave her a hesitant smile. So, how'd it go? Kimiko smirked, flipping her hair dramatically. He agreed to a coffee date. I told you I've got this. Yugito snorted, stirring her tea. I can't believe he didn't run for the door. Kimiko waved her off. He's just playing hard to get. Mabui sighed softly, resting her chin on her hand. If you say so, Kimiko? The faint hum of machinery filled the dimly lit garage as Team Hubby gathered around a whiteboard covered in photos, notes, and scribbles. Temari leaned against her Camaro, arms crossed, her eyes sharp as she looked at Konkuro, who was crouched next to a toolbox, holding a wrench. All right, Konkuro said, standing up and dusting his hands. I've done some serious work on both your cars. Mostly suspension tweaks. With the subway section of tonight's race, you'll need something to handle all the dips, bumps, and tight turns without flying off the rails, literally. You should be good now. Temari nodded in appreciation. Good to know Naruto's sugar mummy came through for us again. Naruto, who was sitting on the hood of Temari's car with his phone in hand, snapped his head up. For the last time, Hinata is not my sugar mummy. Can we drop this already? Temari waved him off nonchalantly. Sure, whatever you say, lover boy. Naruto groaned, burying his face back into his phone. Temari rolled her eyes and turned to the board. 3 photos were pinned at the top. Kimiko, Mabui, and Yugito. Below them were images of their cars, detailed notes, and a few hastily drawn diagrams. She pointed at the board. We need a strategy to take these 3 down. They're the ones to beat, and we can't afford to lose another race to Royal Flush. Konkuro raised an eyebrow. Why are we so laser-focused on them? There are plenty of other teams in the league. Temari jabbed her finger at Kimiko's photo. Because no matter how you slice it, they're the main characters of this league. Everyone knows it. The rest of us are just supporting cast with everything to lose. We ignore them, and we're toast. She turned to Naruto and Konkuro. Are we all on the same page? Konkuro nodded. I get it. Naruto muttered, his eyes still glued to his phone. Yeah, got it. Temari's sharp gaze flicked to Naruto, and she narrowed her eyes. She glanced at the windshield of her Camaro and caught the reflection of his screen. Her face twisted into a mix of disbelief and annoyance. Naruto, she snapped, making him jump. What? He asked, fumbling with his phone. Temari stormed over, snatching it from his hands. Are you seriously scrolling through your fucking DMs right now? During strategy time? Naruto turned beet red. I wasn't. I was, but, look, it's not what it looks like. What it looks like, Temari said, holding the phone up, is that you're ogling photos Hinata sent you. Put this shit away and focus. She slapped the phone back into his hand. Naruto stuffed it into his pocket, mumbling, all right. I'm paying attention now. Temari sighed, rubbing her temples. You better be. Now, moving on. She pointed to the first photo. Yugito ni. Yugito, she began, tapping the picture with her finger. 21 years old, originally from Kumo. Drives a Jaguar F-Type coupe, R75 trim. Stock versions hit over 300 kilometers an hour, and you can bet her Jag isn't stock. Konkuro smirked. Naruto's Corvette can outmuscle that thing. True, Temari said, but her Jag has him beat in corners. Luckily, tonight's race doesn't have too many. Just don't get, Naruto. Naruto nodded, his confidence returning. Got it. Yugito's mine. Temari held up a hand. Not so fast. Don't get tunnel vision, alright? It's a two-man race. We stick together. Just like I'm sure Yugito will stick to Mabui like glue. Naruto grinned. You mean like you and me? Temari raised an eyebrow. Let's not get sentimental. She turned to the next photo, Mabui. And now for the biggest thorn in our side. Naruto leaned forward slightly, his interest piqued. Mabui, Temari continued. 20 years old, local Suna resident. Knows these streets better than anyone. Drives an SL63E stock. It's got 800 horses under the hood. Amazing acceleration, handling, and top speed. That car's a nightmare unless you're in a hypercar, which we're very much not in. Naruto let out a low whistle. So she's the one who handed you your ass last race? Temari's expression darkened. Yes. And for the record, she's Royal Flush's best driver. Beating her won't be easy. Kankuro rubbed his chin thoughtfully. So, if you, supposedly out best driver, already lost to her, how are we supposed to deal with her now? Temari turned to Naruto, a small smile playing on her lips. Because this time, it's not just me. It's a two-man race. Naruto met her gaze and smiled back, the unspoken understanding passing between them. Let's do it. The underground garage buzzed with anticipation, a low hum of chatter blending with the occasional roar of engines. Naruto leaned casually against his black and orange C7 Corvette, his arms crossed as he surveyed the scene. Temari stood beside him, leaning against her bright yellow Camaro, arms crossed and expression focused. Naruto glanced at her. So, this is the lineup, huh? Let's see what we're up against. His sharp eyes scanned the garage, sizing up the competition. His gaze settled on bright red Subaru Impreza parked nearby, its frame decorated with a flashy vinyl. That bright red Subi? Naruto gestured at the Impreza. Going off my experience with that particular car, I'd say it's definitely turbocharged. Probably a WRX-2. His eyes drifted to its driver's teammate's car parked near it. And next to it, an Acura NSX with a custom body kit. At least it's not 50 billion euro trash. Temari followed his gaze, nodding slightly. Nice decals though, they look tight. Naruto's attention shifted to a throaty rumble echoing from the other side of the garage. A Plymouth Barracuda sat idling, its custom camshafts creating a distinct, uneven cluck 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 amidst the rumble of its V8 engine. Old school muscle, Naruto noted, nodding appreciatively. That thing's packing serious power. Sounds like it's ready to fuck shit up. Not if it fucks itself up first, Temari chimed in. You know cars like that aren't built for the course. Near the Barracuda, a Toyota Supra Mk5 gleamed under the dim lights. Its driver, a blonde woman in plain blouse, sat on the hood, casually brushing back her hair. Naruto tilted his head. And then there's that Supra. It's sleek, but I bet it's got some serious mods under the hood. Temari crossed her arms tighter. Don't let the shiny exteriors get to you. Remember the plan. She frowned, glancing at the garage entrance. Speaking of shiny exteriors, where the hell is Royal Flush? Fashionably late as always. Before Naruto could reply, Sasori stepped forward from the shadows, his voice commanding attention. Alright, listen up. The murmurs quieted as the drivers turned their attention to him. Sasori adjusted his jacket, looking around. You should all know the route by now. If you don't, well, too bad. It's a crazy idea the higher-ups came up with, but hey, it's your unlucky night. The crowd chuckled nervously. Sasori scanned the lineup. 4 teams, 2 drivers each. That makes 8 cars, but I'm only seeing 6. Where the hell? The lights in the garage flickered suddenly, plunging everything into darkness. What the hell? Naruto muttered, squinting into the shadows. The garage filled with the murmur of confused voices. Engines revved nervously, headlights flickering on as drivers tried to make sense of the blackout. A moment later, the lights flickered back on. The crowd gasped collectively, their attention snapping to 2 cars that had appeared out of nowhere in the lineup. A blue Jaguar F-Type growled menacingly, its engine revving loud enough to make nearby windows vibrate. Beside it sat a green Mercedes-Benz SL63, its driver, Mabui, elegantly stepping out and leaning casually against her door. Naruto raised an eyebrow, rubbing his chin. Okay, that's a hell of an entrance. Temari's eyes narrowed. No one heard them drive in. Did they just Teleport 2 cars into the lineup? Naruto shrugged. Doesn't matter. It's cool, and that's what counts. Temari groaned, rolling her eyes. Of course you'd think that. Kimiko stepped forward from Yugito's Jaguar, her sunglasses shielding her eyes from the harsh fluorescent lights. She strolled confidently toward Sasori, a smug smile playing on her lips. Apologies for being late, she said smoothly. Sasori sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Kimiko, you know this isn't a tea party. Are you and your team ready or not? Kimiko dramatically removed her sunglasses, as if she'd been waiting for the moment. Somehow, a gust of wind swept through the garage, catching her hair and jacket perfectly. She turned to her teammates. Mabui gave an understanding nod, while Yugito, still in her Jag, revved her engine in sync with Mabui's. Kimiko turned back to Sasori, smirking. That answer your question? Temari leaned into Naruto. Yeah, she's always been this dramatic. Naruto chuckled. Makes sense. Fits the whole main character vibe. Sasori raised his hands, calling for attention. Alright, let's get this started. Drivers, to your cars. The racers began moving toward their vehicles. Temari slid into her Camaro, but not before locking eyes with Kimiko, who stood silently near the Jaguar, watching her. Kimiko's lips curved into a subtle smile, her gaze unwavering. Temari muttered under her breath, shaking her head as she climbed into her car. Don't let her get into your head, Naruto's voice crackled through the walkie-talkie. If there's any sorority girl to get pissed at, it's Yugito and Mabui. Focus. Temari exhaled slowly, gripping the wheel. You're right. Her expression hardened with determination. Let's do this. The roar of 8 engines filled the night air as the racers peeled out of the underground garage, tires screeching against the asphalt. The crowd cheered wildly, their voices quickly swallowed by the cacophony of horsepower. Naruto tightened his grip on the wheel of his black and orange C7 Corvette, his heart pounding as they merged onto Suna's narrow 2-lane streets. Beside him, Temari's yellow Camaro roared, her focus unwavering. The rest of the cars fanned out behind them, headlights cutting through the darkness. Stay close, Temari's voice crackled through the walkie-talkie. We stick together, got it? Relax, I've got this, Naruto replied, glancing in his rearview mirror. The bright blue Jaguar F-Type driven by Yugito was right on his tail, its engine growling like a predator. Ahead, Mabui's green Mercedes-Benz SL63 was already pulling into the lead, the sleek coupe darting effortlessly through traffic like a needle threading its way through chaos. The cars tore through the narrow streets of Suna, weaving past startled pedestrians and darting around sporadic traffic. The Corvette and Camaro of Habi held tight to the middle of the pack, flanked by Royal Flush. Ahead, the blonde driver of the Supra Mk5 drifted around a corner, tires squealing as the Barracuda thundered after her. The red Subaru and the Acura NSX took different routes, splitting off in search of an advantage. The chase intensified as Naruto's Corvette surged forward, slipping past the Supra on a tight corner. Temari wasn't far behind, her Camaro holding a perfect line through the bend. Mabui's SL63 was a blur of green as it accelerated into a tight turn, her car seemingly glued to the road. Behind her, Temari and Naruto maintained formation, their engines roaring in sync. The Jaguar, however, was relentless, its driver, Yugito, showing no hesitation as she closed the gap between herself and Naruto. Naruto swerved hard to avoid a slow-moving van, his tires screeching as he straightened out. Yugito's breathing down my neck, he shouted into the walkie. Then shake her off. Temari snapped back. I'll focus on Mabui. You deal with the blue cat. Naruto gritted his teeth, checking his side mirror. Yugito's Jaguar was practically kissing his bumper. Nice car, Naruto, Yugito's voice crackled through the shared race frequency. Too bad it handles like a bathtub. Naruto smirked, his competitive streak flaring. Oh yeah, I'm sure you've got a nice view to analyze my handling from back there. He slammed the gas pedal, the Corvette surging forward. The road narrowed ahead, a cluster of parked cars creating a bottleneck. Naruto timed it perfectly, squeezing through with inches to spare. Yugito wasn't fazed. She downshifted, her Jaguar growling as it hugged the outside line, bypassing the bottleneck entirely. Within seconds, she was alongside him, her window rolled down. Cute move, she taunted, her smirk visible even at high speed. Naruto swore under his breath, jerking the wheel to block her advance. Temari, meanwhile, was locked in a battle of wits and skill with Mabui. The SL-63 glided effortlessly through a maze of civilian cars, Mabui's calm demeanor evident even in her driving. Temari pushed her Camaro to its limits, the roar of the V8 engine echoing off the surrounding buildings. "You again?" Mabui's voice was cool, almost bored. "At some point you have to hang it up and say you tried, don't you think, Temari?" "In your dreams," Temari shot back, cutting hard to the inside as they approached a sharp left turn. Her Camaro's tires screeched, the car barely holding its line as it came inches from clipping Mabui's rear bumper. Mabui responded instantly, her SL-63 darting ahead with a burst of speed. "Nice try," she said. Temari cursed, slamming her hand against the steering wheel. "She's being a pain in the ass again, Naruto." "Focus," Naruto barked. "Don't let her get in your head. We're still in this." A street vendor scrambled to pull his cart out of the way as the racers barreled through the narrow street. Civilians shouted and scattered, their shouts blending with the screech of tires and the thunder of engines. Naruto's Corvette and Yugito's Jaguar were neck and neck, the two cars weaving in and out of traffic with near-superhuman reflexes. Temari's Camaro stayed on Mabui's tail, but the green SL-63 remained untouchable, its driver displaying a level of control that seemed almost unfair. Naruto glanced at the GPS mounted on his dashboard, the route flashing ahead. "Subway entrance is coming up," he said. "Temari, we've got one shot at this. We need to get in front before we hit the stairs." Temari's voice was grim. "Easier said than done. Mabui's got the inside lane, and I can't shake her." "Then make her overcommit," Naruto suggested. "Fake her out." Temari smirked. "I like the way you think." She suddenly feigned a move to the outside, her Camaro veering sharply as if to overtake. Mabui reacted instantly, her SL-63 moving to block. Temari slammed her brakes, cutting back inside with a precision turn. For a split second, it looked like the move would work. But Mabui anticipated the maneuver, her car sliding effortlessly into a wide drift, blocking off both lanes. "Nice try," Mabui said again, her voice laced with amusement. Behind them, Naruto was still locked with Yugito, their cars side by side as they approached the subway entrance. The bright yellow lights of the pedestrian staircase loomed ahead, casting an eerie glow on the street. "Naruto!" Temari shouted. "We're running out of time." Naruto glanced at the staircase. "I see it, just hold on." The racers thundered toward the subway, their engines roaring louder than ever. The chaos of the streets faded into a singular focus, the yawning entrance of the underground track. Naruto clenched the wheel, adrenaline coursing through him. This is it, no turning back now. The faint hum of the subway terminal gave way to chaos as Mabui's green SL-63 flew down the pedestrian staircase, landing gracefully with a controlled bounce. Behind her, Temari's yellow Camaro roared after her, its tires squealing as it gripped the staircase edge and launched itself into the underground labyrinth. Naruto's black and orange Corvette followed seconds later, its chassis briefly airborne before slamming onto the subway floor with a metallic crunch. "Damn it," he hissed through gritted teeth, his hands gripping the wheel as his car rocked violently. Ahead, panicked subway goers scattered in every direction, their screams echoing off the tiled walls. The crowd surged like a wave, climbing over benches and abandoning luggage as they tried to escape the oncoming vehicles. "Clear a path, Temari," Naruto yelled into his walkie. "We've got people everywhere." Ahead of him, Temari's voice came through, steady and focused. "Stay on my ass, I'll clear the way. Just don't lose me." Naruto's horn blared as he flashed his headlights, warning terrified subway users who scattered, dropping their bags and screaming. Behind him, the sound of Yugito's Jaguar echoed off the tunnel walls as the blue coupe veered to the side, its tires skidding between two support pillars and onto the train track. "Clever girl," Naruto muttered, catching sight of her in his peripheral vision. Behind him, the Acura NSX closed the gap, its low-slung profile slicing through the chaos like a missile. The racers tore past a train pulling into the station, its passengers frozen in shock. Wide-eyed faces pressed against the windows, their expressions a mix of awe and terror as the cars zipped by, their reflections blurring in the train windows. At the front, Mabui's SL-63 was a picture of calm dominance. Her hands moved deftly across the wheel, her eyes flicking between the chaos ahead and the rearview mirror. Temari's Camaro was closing in, the yellow muscle car refusing to give up ground. The NSX was closing in fast on Naruto, while the Barracuda thundered behind, its engine's roar audible even over the din. Mabui's eyes were laser-focused, her hands steady on the wheel. Pedestrians leapt out of her path as she sped through the terminal, her car gliding around obstacles like a dancer. She pressed her walkie-talkie button. "Yugito, it's almost time to merge onto the track," she said calmly. "Leave some space for me." Yugito's response came immediately. "Got it." Mabui began counting down in her head. The terminal was nearing its end, and the racers would soon have no choice but to merge onto the narrow train track. The challenge was timing. Merge too early, and the bumpy track would sap her speed. Merge too late, and there wouldn't be room. She glanced at her rearview mirror. Temari was pushing hard, clearly planning to hold the terminal until the last second for maximum speed. Mabui smirked. Let's see how she handles this. In her Camaro, Temari was laser-focused. Her engine roared as she closed in on Mabui's Benz, the distance between them shrinking with every second. "You're mine, bitch," Temari muttered under her breath, her hands tightening on the wheel. She watched as Mabui's SL63 veered right, climbing onto the train track earlier than expected. Temari grinned. Rookie move. But then she saw it. Mabui wasn't slowing down as much as expected. The SL63 held its line on the track, maintaining enough speed to block the right lane. Temari's grin faltered. The walls of the terminal were closing in fast, leaving her with two choices. Slam into the track divider at full speed or hit the brakes and merge behind Mabui. Damn it. Temari slammed on her brakes, her Camaro screeching in protest as she jostled for position. Mabui's voice came through the comms, light and teasing. "What's wrong, Temari? Ran out of room?" Temari growled, grabbing her walkie-talkie. "Screw you, Mabui. Don't think for a second this is over." "Oh, it's far from over," Mabui replied smoothly. "But I think you'll enjoy 6th place for a while." Temari growled as she finally clambered onto the train track, the harsh bumps jostling her Camaro. To her frustration, the Barracuda rumbled past her, seizing the opportunity she had lost. Up ahead, Naruto gritted his teeth, his Corvette jolting violently on the uneven train track. "Temari, where the hell are you?" he shouted. "I messed up, Naruto." Temari responded. "I'm right behind you, just focus on the road." Up ahead, Yugito's Jaguar was keeping pace with Mabui's SL63, the two Royal Flush cars moving in perfect sync. Naruto gunned his engine, pushing his Corvette harder as he tried to catch up. "Yugito," he shouted over the frequency. "Why don't you assholes try racing fair for once?" Yugito's laugh was sharp. "Fair? This is a race, hubby. If you can't keep up, that's your problem." Naruto cursed under his breath, narrowly avoiding a support beam as he closed the gap. The NSX behind him was relentless, its driver inching closer with every second. The SL63 and Jaguar maintained their lead, their drivers unflinching. But Naruto's Corvette was gaining, its engine screaming as it pushed past its limits. Behind him, the Barracuda and NSX battled for position, the muscle car's raw power barely keeping the nimble Acura at bay. The subway shook with the thunder of the racers' engines as they wove between support beams and train stops with terrifying precision. Pedestrians who hadn't fled clung to walls, their faces pale as the cars tore past. Mabui glanced at her side mirror, watching as Naruto's Corvette edged closer. Yugito's Jaguar held steady just ahead, their coordination seamless. "Let's keep it clean," Mabui said through the comms, her tone steady. "But let's keep it ours." Naruto's eyes narrowed as the racers thundered deeper into the subway system, their headlights slicing through the dimly lit tunnels. "Time to turn this around," he muttered, his foot pressing harder on the gas. Temari's voice crackled through the walkie. "Damn right it's not. Let's show them what we're made of." Naruto's hands gripped the wheel tighter as he glanced into his side mirror. The Acura NSX on his left climbed onto one of the embankments bordering each side of the track, its neon underglow casting a faint light on the tunnel wall. Behind him, the Barracuda roared to life, attempting the same maneuver. "Shit," Naruto muttered under his breath. They were boxing him in. He veered his Corvette onto the right embankment, his tires clawing at the uneven surface. His heart sank as he saw the Supra slip into his position on the tracks, cutting off his escape. He was locked on the embankment now. If a pillar loomed ahead, He'd have to brake hard, bleeding precious speed and positions in the process. The racers thundered along the narrow track, the collective roar of their engines reverberating throughout the dimly lit tunnel. Ahead, Mabui and Yugito split, their cars seamlessly climbing opposite embankments. Their taillights flared red, signaling calculated coordination as a bright light lit up the track ahead of them, an oncoming train. Naruto's eyes widened. Ah, crap! The deafening roar of the train grew louder, its headlights cutting through the tunnel like a laser. Panic rippled through the racers. Engines roared as all 8 drivers scrambled to climb onto the embankments. The Supra was caught in no man's land, boxed in with no way out. Its driver slammed on the brakes, desperately trying to slip into a gap behind the cars boxing it in. The train closed the distance in seconds, its horn blaring. Naruto clenched his jaw, holding his breath as the train rocketed past, a whoosh of wind shaking his Corvette. Sparks flew from the grinding steel wheels as the train sped into the distance, leaving a trail of rattling echoes. Ahead, Mabui's SL-63 gracefully slipped back onto the track, seamlessly letting Yugito take first. Of course, Naruto growled, watching the royal flush girls work together like a well-oiled machine. They're locking it down like a damn team sport. Naruto's eyes narrowed as he calculated his next move. He needed to break their hold on the race, and the only way to do that was to overtake at least one of them. If he could slip into second, he'd disrupt their coordination and stand a chance at controlling the pace. Temari's voice crackled through the walkie-talkie. "How you holding up back there?" Naruto hit the button to respond. "I'm fine. Got a plan." There was a pause before Temari's voice came back, softer this time. "Naruto, we need a miracle here." Naruto smiled grimly, his focus unyielding. "I'll figure it out." His suspension groaned as he merged back onto the track, the Corvette hitting 100 km per hour. He knew Mabui and Yugito were holding their speeds around the same threshold, forcing everyone to play by their rules. But Naruto wasn't one to play by the rules. He spotted his opportunity, the embankment. If he climbed it and picked up enough speed, he could use the momentum to overtake Yugito. It was risky. A pillar or another train could end the attempt, and him. 50-50 chance of making it, he muttered, steeling himself. Guess those odds are good enough. Naruto waited for a pillar to blur past, then yanked the wheel right, guiding the Corvette back onto the embankment. The suspension jolted violently as the car climbed, his tires screeching against the uneven surface. Come on, he growled, gunning the engine. The growl of the V8 reverberated through the tunnel as his speedometer climbed. Up ahead, the subway began to curve right. Naruto's lips curled into a smirk. The inside of the curve was his advantage. Yugito's Jaguar came into view as he gained on her. Her taillights flickered as she glanced in her rearview mirror, realizing what Naruto was doing. Behind the racers, a new light emerged, growing brighter with each second. The sound of a second train echoed ominously, its horn blaring a warning through the tunnel. Temari's panicked voice burst through the comms. "Naruto, there's another train coming. Get off the embankment now." Naruto grit his teeth, his focus unwavering. He couldn't back down now, not when he was this close. "I see it. Just hold on." Up ahead, Mabui climbed onto the left embankment, her SL-63 moving with surgical precision. Yugito, still on the track, found herself boxed in between Mabui and Naruto. Yugito cursed loudly, her voice coming through the comms. "Mabui, what the hell are you doing?" Mabui's calm response cut through the static. "Boxing him in. Hold on, Yugito." Yugito's frustration was palpable as she slowed, allowing Naruto to slip into second. She swerved behind Mabui, her Jaguar falling into line. Naruto exhaled sharply, his grip on the wheel steady. "Gotcha," he muttered, his Corvette now in second place, trailing Mabui's taillights. The sound of the second train grew deafening as it sped toward the racers from behind. The tunnel rattled as the massive machine bore down on them, its horn blaring. Naruto glanced in his rearview mirror, watching the train's light swallow the distance. Temari's Camaro was barely climbing the embankment, her position perilous. Temari's voice came through again, a mix of anger and desperation. "You better make this count, Naruto." Naruto smirked, his eyes locked on Mabui's SL-63. "I always do." Naruto's knuckles turned white as he clenched the steering wheel, his vision laser focused on the chaos ahead. His heartbeat hammered in his chest, a drumbeat syncing with the approaching roar of the train behind him. The embankment trembled beneath his Corvette as the train's hulking form loomed closer, its horn blaring a sound that felt like impending doom. The train's nose overtook him, slamming into his line of sight and blocking Mabui and Yugito's taillights entirely. Sparks flew as Naruto's car grazed the train, the metal-on-metal screech reverberating through the tunnel. The Corvette wobbled dangerously, and Naruto fought the wheel to keep it steady. Inside the train, passengers gawked at the reckless sight. Faces pressed against the windows in shock. Others scrambled for their phones to record the spectacle. The sleek orange and black Corvette, battered and roaring, matched the train's speed in defiance of physics and common sense. Naruto barely noticed them. His focus was on the tunnel ahead, and the ever-approaching pillar that threatened to end him if this damn train didn't move. To make matters worse, the route was curving left. But with the train blocking him, he'd be forced to go straight ahead into the tunnel, and miss his exit. Yugito's voice crackled through his walkie-talkie. "What's the matter, Naruto? Train got you boxed in? Don't worry, they're very forgiving." Naruto gritted his teeth. His blood boiled at her smug tone, but he had no time to spit back an insult. His survival demanded all his focus. "Think, Uzumaki, think," he muttered to himself. The speedometer climbed to 180 km per hour as Naruto pushed the Corvette to its limits. His only chance was to overtake the train before the Y-bend up ahead. "Come on, baby," Naruto growled, his foot glued to the accelerator. The gap between the train and the embankment narrowed, the flicker of tunnel lights casting jagged shadows on the Corvette's hood. He gunned the engine, feeling the power surge through the chassis. Inch by inch, he gained on the train, closing the distance to its front. "This is fucking stupid," Naruto muttered. "But here goes nothing." Naruto yanked the wheel left, jerking his car onto the track in front of the speeding train. The massive engine bellowed its displeasure, its horn deafeningly loud. The Corvette's momentum faltered, the rear tires spinning for grip. Naruto's stomach dropped as the train nudged the rear bumper, sending a shudder through the entire car. Shit, shit, shit. Naruto slammed his thumb onto the nitrous button. Blue flames burst from the exhaust, and the car jolted forward with a roar. The train engineer screamed profanities into the wind, slamming the emergency brakes, but it was too late. The train's massive nose loomed closer, bearing down on Naruto like a mechanical beast. "Hold together, damn it," Naruto hissed, urging the car forward. A narrow gap ahead glimmered like salvation. With a grunt, Naruto twisted the wheel left again, aiming for the embankment. The train clipped the car's rear in mid-air, sending sparks flying as the impact dented the rear spoiler. The car lifted momentarily, airborne, before slamming down onto the embankment with a bone-rattling thud. But Naruto's victory was short-lived. Bright lights flooded his vision from the opposite direction. A second train roared toward him, its horn splitting the air. "Fucking hell, not another one," Naruto shouted. He veered hard, slipping in behind Yugito's Jaguar just as the NSX made its move to take the same spot. The NSX driver's face was a mask of panic as the train bore down on them. They swerved too late. The train slammed into the rear quarter panel of the car with a sickening crunch, spinning it into a violent pirouette. Metal screamed as the NSX collided with the tunnel wall, showering the track in sparks and debris. Naruto's chest tightened as he glanced in his rearview mirror. The totaled NSX blocked the embankment, sealing off the path for anyone behind it. "One down," he muttered, gripping the wheel. Ahead, the subway began to widen into the next terminal. Mabui and Yugito's cars weaved through the terrified crowd of pedestrians, who screamed and scattered in all directions. The SL-63 and the F-Type tore through the chaos expertly, their taillights glowing red. Naruto's voice cracked through the comms. "Temari, you good?" Temari's response came back, breathless but determined. "I'm fine. Just finish this, Naruto." "Finish it." Naruto's lips curled into a fierce grin. "Don't worry, I've got this." His eyes locked onto Mabui and Yugito's taillights, his mind running through the possibilities. The finish line wasn't far now, just beyond the subway terminal, back on the surface at the intersection of 6th Avenue and 3rd Street. Naruto tightened his grip on the wheel, adrenaline surging through his veins. He still had a chance to win this. And he wasn't about to let anyone, Mabui, Yugito, or the damn trains, take it from him. Naruto's heart sank as the flood of red and blue lights exploded in his vision, cutting through the night like a warning beacon. Police cruisers were everywhere, setting up an ambush at the terminal's exit. Officers stood armed, their shouts drowned out by the blaring sirens. Fuck, how the hell did they know we'd come this way? Naruto hissed, gripping the wheel tightly as his Corvette thundered up the stairs. Inside the Jaguar, Yugito glanced in her rearview mirror, a sly smirk playing on her lips. Looks like Kimiko came through, she said, her voice calm but tinged with amusement. She grabbed the walkie-talkie, speaking to Mabui. Looks like our girls got us covered. Let's gun it for the finish line, no point hanging around for the pigs. Mabui's voice crackled back. Right, but heads up. Naruto's right on you. Yugito blinked, her smirk vanishing. What? You're kidding me. She checked her mirror again and cursed under her breath as Naruto's Corvette came into view, sticking to her like glue. Shit, what's his deal? Mabui's tone was apologetic. I think he used us to slip past the cops. They were dumb enough to fall for it. The Jaguar, Benz, and Corvette burst out of the terminal and onto the open road, the police blockade ignoring them in favor of the other racers trapped behind. The three cars roared into the night, weaving through startled traffic and skimming past panicked pedestrians. Yugito slammed her hands on the wheel, her voice sharp through the radio. Mabui, what the hell? Why didn't you cut him off? Mabui stuttered. I didn't see him coming. Of course you didn't, Yugito snapped, frustration clear in her tone. Can you do something useful for once? Help me shake this bastard. Mabui bit back a retort, focusing instead on her driving. Naruto, meanwhile, was locked in, his eyes fixed on the taillights of the Royal Flush cars. I'm not letting these assholes win, he muttered to himself. His car roared, the engine growling like an untamed beast. The road stretched ahead, a straight two-lane street lined with buildings and obstacles. Naruto knew he had a shot. His car could beat Yugito's Jaguar in a straight-line race. But Mabui was the wild card, her Benz perfectly placed to defend her teammate. Naruto darted left, trying to slip past Yugito, but Mabui's SL-63 swerved sharply, blocking his path. The Benz and Corvette nearly collided, sparks flying as their bumpers grazed. Damn it, lady, move. Naruto growled, slamming the accelerator. Yugito smirked as she watched the chaos in her rearview mirror. Mabui's defensive driving was doing its job. She tapped her brakes slightly, letting Mabui cover her even better. You'll have to try harder than that, Naruto, Yugito taunted through the radio. Naruto veered right, this time aiming for the narrow gap between Yugito's Jaguar and an oncoming car. His reflexes were razor sharp, his Corvette sliding through with millimeters to spare. The Jaguar swerved left, Yugito letting out a curse as she struggled to maintain her line. Mabui growled, I got him. The SL-63 glanced against the Corvette's side, body-checking Naruto back into position. Naruto gritted his teeth, his knuckles aching as he fought to regain control. This isn't over, he snarled. Up ahead, the traffic thickened. Cars honked and swerved as the racers barreled through intersections, ignoring all sense of safety. Pedestrians screamed, scattering out of the way as the trio thundered past. Mabui's eyes darted to the approaching traffic light. Time to play dirty, she murmured. The Benz suddenly swerved hard to the left, cutting across lanes and narrowly missing an oncoming van. Mabui clipped the traffic light pole with the rear of her car, sending it toppling onto the road behind her. Naruto cursed as the pole crashed down in his path. He hit the brakes, skidding hard to avoid the debris. The Corvette's tires screamed against the asphalt, the delay costing him precious seconds. Yugito shot ahead, the Jaguar's taillights gleaming as she tore toward the finish line. Mabui's Benz followed, damaged but still moving, her gambit paying off. Naruto slammed the accelerator, his engine roaring as he tried to recover. But it was too late. Yugito crossed the intersection of 6th Avenue and 3rd Street first, her Jaguar gliding through the finish line. Naruto's Corvette stormed across the line just behind her, while Mabui's Benz limped in third, its rear bumper dragging slightly. Naruto slammed his hand on the steering wheel, frustration boiling over. Damn it, he shouted, his chest heaving. He grabbed the radio. You're lucky as hell, Yugito. If it wasn't 2-on-1, you know you'd be toast. Yugito's laughter came back, sharp and mocking. Sure, Naruto. And if you crossed the finish line before me, you'd be first. See how easy it is to just say stuff. Naruto gritted his teeth. This isn't over. Yugito's tone turned smug. Oh, it is. Beat it, loser. The cops are still out there, and you can't hide behind us forever. Naruto's grip on the wheel tightened. You'll get what's coming to you, he promised. Yugito chuckled. Better go check on your girlfriend. Maybe the cops nabbed her. I could use some more good news tonight. Mabui giggled at the comment, and the two royal flush girls peeled off into the night, their taillights disappearing into the chaos of the city. Naruto sat there for a moment, fuming, before slamming the gas and driving off into the shadows. By finishing second, he'd made sure Habi was through to the finals. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The underground garage beneath the nightclub buzzed with the sound of engines cooling and conversations spilling over from the adrenaline-fueled race. Mabui and Yugito's cars were parked nearby, their paint scratched and bumpers scuffed from the chaos. Across the room, Naruto stepped out of his battered Corvette, his eyes scanning the space. When he finally spotted Temari leaning against a wall with her arms crossed, his shoulders relaxed, and he let out a long breath. Temari, you're okay. Temari raised an eyebrow, her lips quirking into a smirk. Well, look who's getting all sentimental. Didn't know you cared, Naruto. Naruto shrugged, stuffing his hands into his pockets. I don't. Just figured if the cops snagged you, who the hell's gonna help me win the 20 mil I came all the way to this dust bowl for? Temari rolled her eyes but couldn't stop the small smile creeping onto her face. Right, the money. How could I forget? How did you even escape from the cops? They got every other racer, Naruto asked. Before Temari could respond, Sasori's voice cut through the garage, smooth and mocking. Looks like congratulations are in order. Royal Flush and Habi are only survivors tonight. Everyone else either ate concrete or got cuffed. The crowd murmured in agreement as Sasori continued, his lips curling into a knowing smile. Guess it's destiny. The final qualification race is all yours. Should be a fun bloodbath. Naruto shot a glare toward Kimiko, who stood beside her team, her smug expression infuriating. Yeah, destiny sure plays nice when you've got someone who can call off the cops with a damn phone call. Kimiko sauntered toward him, her stilettos clicking on the concrete. She placed a manicured hand over her heart, feigning hurt. Why are you so bent on taking my team down, Naruto? What did we ever do to you? Temari scoffed, pushing off the wall. Cut the victim act, Kimiko. Royal Flush is the one that started this whole mess. Yugito, leaning against her Jaguar and lighting a cigarette, raised an eyebrow. Oh, please. It's a bit rich for Habi to go after the only all-female team in the league. Kinda dodgy if you ask me. Kimiko's lips curled into a triumphant smirk. Exactly. It's giving. A collective gasp rippled through the garage. The crowd, always hungry for drama, leaned in closer, their faces a mix of shock and intrigue. Kimiko placed her hands on her hips, her voice dripping with mock righteousness. It's clear Naruto just can't stand to see a group of women succeed in a male-dominated field. Honestly, it's pathetic. Naruto threw his hands in the air. What the hell are you talking about? Temari's literally my teammate. Mabui raised a hand as if she were in class. Could be internalized on Temari's part. Several people in the crowd nodded sagely, murmuring their agreement. Makes sense, one guy said. It all adds up when you think about it. Temari groaned, pinching the bridge of her nose. Oh, for fuck's sake, Kimiko. Cut this bullshit. You're already at the top of the league. What more do you want? Kimiko gave an exaggerated shrug. Justice. Recognition. Equality. Before Temari could lunge at her, Sasori stepped between them, raising his hands. Alright, enough of the bickering. Save this energy for the race. I don't care who's cheating or who's just plain annoying. Get your asses in gear and be ready to bleed on the track next week. Kimiko smiled sweetly. Fine by me. But for now, drinks are on me, people. The crowd erupted in cheers, the tension dissolving as everyone made their way toward the club entrance. Naruto waved a tired hand, gesturing for Temari and Kankuro to follow him. Come on, let's blow off some steam. Might as well drink out of Kimiko's wallet while we can. Kankuro trailed behind them, looking thoughtful. You guys go ahead. I'm gonna try talking to Yugito. Temari groaned audibly, throwing her head back. Oh my god, Kankuro, take a hint already. She's not interested. Kankuro frowned. You don't know that. Maybe she just needs time. Temari stopped, turning to jab a finger into his chest. She's told you to piss off twice, Kankuro. Twice. At this point, you're just embarrassing yourself, and us. Naruto smirked, slapping her brother on the back. Hey, if rejection fuels your engine, who am I to stop you? Go get him, champ. Temari rolled her eyes and stalked into the club, muttering something about idiots under her breath. Meanwhile, back at the cars, Kimiko turned to her teammates with a satisfied smile. Not bad out there tonight. I'd say we handled that beautifully. Mabui crossed her arms, leaning against her Benz. We handled it because you helped with the cops. Kimiko examined her nails, her voice nonchalant. What can I say? It's my specialty. She glanced toward the club entrance. But now we focus. Hubby's good, annoyingly good, but if we stay sharp, we'll crush those pricks in the finals. Mabui and Yugito exchanged glances before Yugito smirked. Damn right we will. With that, the three women headed toward the club, their confidence unshaken. The pounding bass of the nightclub swallowed Kimiko and her team as they stepped into the neon-lit chaos. Mabui and Yugito were laughing about something, their voices rising above the thrum of music and chatter, but Kimiko barely heard them. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She pulled it out, glancing at the message from the contact she'd saved with nothing but a heart emoji. Heartsuit. Did you seriously accuse hubby of being? Kimiko smirked, her fingers flying over the screen. Kimiko. Not a stretch, is it? Worked, didn't it? There was a long pause before another message came through. Heartsuit. Cute. But focus up. One more race and this is over. Don't screw it up. Kimiko's smirk faltered slightly, her thumb hesitating over the keyboard. Kimiko. So far, so smooth. We'll dispose of M in the next race. Another buzz, almost immediate. Heartsuit. Good. Stick with the plan. And for fuck's sake, you're driving this time. I'm sick of you sitting out every time shit gets tough. Mabui's car's a wreck. Pull your weight. Kimiko stopped walking, the club's strobe lights casting a kaleidoscope of colors across her face. Her throat tightened as she read the message again, her stomach sinking. Kimiko. You sure about that? Yugito's been handling it fine. Heartsuit. Dead sure. You're not going to out again, Kimiko. We're down to the wire, and I need all hands on deck. Kimiko's jaw clenched, but she forced her fingers to type a response. Kimiko. Fine, I'll drive. Heartsuit. Good girl. This city's crawling with cops, and it's only going to get worse. If you want to get the fuck out of Suna, we need the pigs off our backs and onto someone else's. That's your job, Kimiko. Work your magic one last time, will ya? Kimiko stared at the words for a long moment, the lights around her blurring into streaks. She sucked in a deep breath and typed her reply. Kimiko. Okay. A moment passed before she added. When can we talk in person? The typing indicator blinked, then disappeared. She waited, her breath caught in her throat, until finally another message popped up. Heartsuit. Soon. The word felt like both a promise and a dismissal. Kimiko stared at it for a moment longer before locking her phone and slipping it back into her purse. She took a shuddering breath, squaring her shoulders and smoothing her expression into the confident, unbothered facade she wore so well. With the nightclub's intoxicating energy pulling her in, she sauntered toward the VIP booth where Mabui and Yugito were already waiting. Yugito had a drink in hand, her head tilted back as she laughed at something Mabui said. Mabui waved Kimiko over. Took you long enough, boss, Mabui teased, nudging a glass toward her. Well, who are we to question Her Majesty's punctuality Yugito added with a smirk. Kimiko plastered on a grin, sliding into the booth and grabbing the drink. Please, you'd wait all night if I asked. Mabui raised her glass. To royal flush. To kicking hubby's ass, Yugito added, clinking her glass against Mabui's. Kimiko raised her own glass, the ice clinking softly against the glass. And to drowning in booze until we forget this shitty city exists. The three women laughed, their drinks sloshing as they toasted. But as the alcohol burned its way down Kimiko's throat, she couldn't shake the chill creeping into her chest. Next week's race loomed over her like a storm cloud. But for now, she let the liquor do its work, masking her nerves behind a wall of false confidence. That's all for my now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.